Info and opinion. It's Big Red Overreaction, the first live post-game show featuring the most important voice of all, you the Husker fan. Big Red Overreaction is sponsored by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill, and by Equitable Bank. Also by Burton. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Get on the line now at 402-951-1620 and sound off on Big Red Overreaction, live on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K.
Starting out inside the 15, Thompson is going to launch it deep downfield, right in stride. Trey Palmer is gone. Touchdown, Nebraska. One play, 87 yards.
My button still doesn't work. Good evening, everyone, and welcome in. It's Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by many of our fine sponsors, including Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Burton, if you're plumbing certain, just call Burton, and Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. Nebraska is the winners of the Heroes Trophy as they parade around Kinnick Stadium, and Garrett Nelson takes turns handed off to random fans in the crowd. Rick Pizzo still interviewing Mickey Joseph on the side. Nebraska is your Heroes Trophy game winner, 24-17 today over Iowa. Connor Happer, Robbie Lula with you this evening. Never a doubt. Never a doubt. I don't care.
That's not accurate.
Let the haters.
That's not accurate.
I was saying it all second half. Nebraska will win this game.
A lot of doubt.
There is little to no doubt about this, and they will not do things that annoy you or make you sad.
No, they did a lot of things that made me sad.
Or make you impatient at all, and they will win this game, and it will be comfortable because of the plays that they make at the end. And they did all of that, Robbie.
Eventually.
And they won.
They did make a play at the end.
24-17. Nebraska improves to 4-8 on the year.
That is progress from last year.
It's one win better than it was in 2021. And 24-17 is your final score. For the first time since 2014, Nebraska beats the Iowa Hawkeyes on Black Friday. I imagine there's a lot to talk about tonight. There most certainly is. Chris, Skip, Mike, Austin, we're going to get to you guys first. Mickey Joseph will be coming up momentarily. So if one of you is in the middle of something when we get Mickey for the first time, then we'll have to unapologetically and very rudely leave you,
drop you
in the middle of your take
to get to Mickey.
So just that as a fair warning.
Be aware.
But we are here for you guys, 402-951-1620. We'll talk about this, and I imagine there will be some Matt Rule chatter in between as well. Chris is our first. We gotta plug this in somehow.
Is our phone plugged in?
Yeah, there it is.
There's the phone. What? Now they're all on.
Chris is our first caller this evening on Big Red Overreaction. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm down in Memphis, Tennessee, from Omaha, Nebraska, cheering.
All right.
Yes. So you can't tell me this team don't have talent, don't have heart. We just need a culture. We need a culture. We just need a competent coaching staff to come in and to get with these kids and show them, a culture, build a culture. We just have young players on this team. I know we have it. And next year, I know we talk about Matt Rule, all this, but I'm excited today. I'm just happy today that we pulled it out. I know it got a little dicey at the end, but I'm excited. I can't even talk. I had all this stuff written down, but I'm excited. In Memphis, Tennessee, for my Nebraska Cornhuskers. Go Cornhuskers.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
And thanks for listening in Tennessee, my guy.
Yeah, from Memphis.
That's great.
From Omaha originally, but in Memphis as we speak
terrific.
right now. He hit on it. This is the overwhelming theme in the evening. It is a overwhelmingly positive day for Nebraska athletics.
Great day for Nebraska
and Nebraska football. They beat Iowa for the first time since 2014. They're able to actually put the theory to the test of when you win your last game, what happens in the offseason. And more so, they're going to put a theory to the test that I've had. If you win your last game of the season, especially in it being against Iowa, and you don't have the best feelings about your rival to the east, and then you hire a coach the next day or 2 days later, that will provide some overwhelming optimism and hope for this fan base. And yeah, I think Chris kind of hit the nail on the head. This is a very, very good day.
Yeah, no, I think this is an overwhelmingly positive day for Nebraska football. Beating Iowa, breaking that long losing streak. It appears that Matt Rule is going to be your next head coach, which is a terrific hire. It's a really good day for Nebraska football. I mean, and the first good day Nebraska's football's had in a really long time.
No, hey, 24-17. That's all people are going to remember. You talk about the first half, dominating first half for Nebraska football.
It was
absolutely horrible second half.
I mean, they were up 24-0. I mean, if we could have stopped it like right after the start of the third quarter, that'd have been awesome. But still came away with the win. I'm not saying first time in a long time just to be negative. I'm just saying it feels even better because of how long it's been since Nebraska's had an overwhelmingly good day. It feels really, really good to have, okay, it seems like they're going to have a really good coach locked up. You get the win against Iowa. You hold off when it seems like we're watching one of those collapses again.
Yeah, and it does slow train.
Yeah,
wrecks.
just like the 1,000 paper cuts and you bleed out. Instead of it going that way, you're able to seal it with the Kolarevic interception. Like it's a really good day for Nebraska football.
Casey Thompson, 20 of 30, 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was
good
very,
day.
Very, very good.
Good day.
Of course, it was aided a little bit by a Trey Palmer long ball for 87 yards in the first half there. Trey Palmer, your single season Nebraska receiving leader of all time. 9 catches, 165 yards today. He goes over that 1,000 mark and he beats out Stanley Morgan's season that he had a few years ago to set the all-time record. That and more. Skip is next on Big Red Overreaction. Hi, Skip.
Man, a win is a win.
Sure is.
No matter how hard you got to claw to get there, I guess. I love my Nebraska football team. I sat in front of the TV in 1984 on January 1st and cried like a baby when we didn't convert two. This second half was the first time I've had tears in my eyes since then, and it was frustration. If I know the staff is gone when we hire a new coach, but if Whipple was a man, he would walk out and resign based on how he called that second half. What did we have to lose? Why are we playing not to lose?
Yeah. I would say that, Skip. I would say offensively and defensively for the record.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
It was so painful to watch. Even my wife, who doesn't know anything about football, is screaming at the TV. I mean, it was almost embarrassing. I'm so glad this staff is gone. And I'm going to say something that I never thought I'd say. I think these kids deserve better. I think they've got heart. I think they play hard. I cannot believe the offensive play calling in the second half. Where did the short passing game go that we were just eating them up with? And anyway, I know we won. I should be happy. I really should. I am just so frustrated and so glad we're getting a fresh start.
Yeah.
And oh my God, please recruit some offensive linemen. JUCOs, I don't care. I mean, it's just so bad. Anyway, thanks guys. Sorry, just let me vent a little bit.
Thank you, Skip. That's why we're here.
That's what show's for, man.
That's what Big Red Overreaction is. I like the phrase. I'm gonna stick with that one for a while. Almost embarrassing.
Yes.
I'm gonna take almost embarrassing.
It was embarrassing adjacent.
almost embarrassing. But guess what? Almost embarrassing. Not
embarrassing.
Not embarrassing.
Famously not embarrassing.
Not full on embarrassing.
Which I can deal with.
It was, if you want to dig into it, which we're going to throughout
at some point we will.
Throughout Big Red Overreaction. It was a tough second half for Nebraska. Like I said, offensively and defensively, you're playing not to lose. Mickey said coming out of the locker room, we got to step on the throat. We got to finish.
They did not do that.
I'm sure that was the message in the locker room, and it didn't look like that on the field. And when Iowa scored that first touchdown to make it 24-7, it was just like, ooh, we're in a weird moment here. We're in a weird spot, and all the sort of memories of last year or all the other games that have sort of gone like this, but especially against this team.
Yes.
And what happened almost 1 year ago and one day, I guess today, or I guess 1 year ago and less than one day.
Yeah.
Today, in Lincoln, and Nebraska had a 21-6 lead, and you're like, okay, all right, it's getting a little late here, Kirk. You gonna make a move here at some point? And they waited Nebraska out until they did enough dumb stuff to win the game. Today, Nebraska did less dumb stuff.
Just barely.
Just barely.
But just enough less dumb stuff to win the game.
And that's
all you need to do.
That's all you need.
Just do slightly less dumb stuff.
On a real note, that's a big hey, go out to Mickey Joseph in Iowa City.
Trying to get the there we go. We're trying to work on some technical difficulties here with the press conference. It's not going out over the stream right now.
Turn on my mic. There we go. Hey, what's up, guys? All right, so we're having obviously some technical difficulties with Mickey out there, but I think you get the gist of it. And he's with his son up there, by the way. That wasn't just Mickey talking baby talk into the microphone, which is good.
Although he did call himself daddy at one point.
But some questions about obviously his future at Nebraska. I will say this before we take a break here, and I know we got callers stacked up, but we're going to take our first break right after this. But if that is indeed it, or even if it wasn't for Mickey Joseph at Nebraska, your hat's off to him for the last 11 weeks, as he said. And, it didn't lead to as many wins as it maybe could have, or they thought they would get. But there was some straightening out of things that happened
absolutely
over the last 2+ months now that led to Nebraska's defense playing the way that it did today, and it really has over the last couple weeks, just sort of bowing up and making plays and forcing a few turnovers today, obviously, as well. But I think even though the wins didn't come, Nebraska fans still kind of proud of this team over the last two months of the year.
You can tell that, especially in the way they talk about Mickey, the way they talk about this team. This is a team that at the beginning of the season you probably didn't feel particularly proud of, but by the end of the season you did.
Yeah.
And that's not nothing.
And Nebraska ruins Iowa's season.
Love it.
They take them out of the Big Ten championship game. They now move that torch over to Purdue if they can beat Indiana tomorrow.
Yep.
And if Purdue for some reason loses to Indiana, then it will be on Northwestern, Illinois, who plays Northwestern tomorrow. So Nebraska has caused the dream scenario in the situation that you're in right now, which is chaos in the Big Ten West, and they have likely banished Iowa to like the Quick Lane Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl, which is sweet.
You love to see it. Absolutely love to see it.
All right, we're here for you guys in Big Red Overreaction. Connor Happer, Robbie Luther with you. It's brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. It's brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. And it's brought to you by Burton. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Austin, Jim, Andy, and Denver Ben, hang on the line. We're up with you next here on 1620 The Zone.
Hi, I'm Mark Evans, owner of Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. Join us in supporting Food Bank for the Heartland. Right now, if you donate 5 cans of food, you can get a furnace safety inspection and cleaning for only $55. We'll take your donation right to the food bank. Checking your furnace now is a great way to avoid emergencies later. Request service at justcallburton.com.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do it with a Coors Light. Mountain Cold Refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Sunday morning is all about church, eggs, and the Sunday paper. But right next to church, it's made for hot takes and reactions. Severe Reactions. Michael Severe is back on 1620 The Zone with Severe Reaction. Sundays 8 to 10 and doesn't hold back on what went right and what went wrong on Saturday. He'll also take calls from the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction. Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Powered by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
It's Big Red Overreaction. Brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Big Red Overreaction continues in 1 minute on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
More info and opinions on Big Red than one station can handle. Now on 2 stations. Big Red Overreaction postgame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K. Sound off. 402-951-1620. Big Red Overreaction is sponsored by Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. And Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill.
Iowa 1 for 4 today on 3rd down after a bobbled snap, but now it's free. And it's picked up by Garrett Nelson. Second forced turnover by this Nebraska defense.
Big restore the order game vibes today for Nebraska football as they take care of business and beat Iowa 24-17 in the Heroes game, and they get to bring that trophy back to Lincoln.
Yeah.
Connor Happer, Ravi Lula with you on Big Red Overreaction for the final time in 2022. The next time we'll do this will be on a late Thursday night after Nebraska plays Minnesota in late August of 2023. And we oftentimes forget about when we wish for the season to end because it's so painful and annoying at times.
Yes.
That the offseason tends to be worse. The time spent without football is usually worse than the time spent with football, regardless of how painful the football can be to you.
Sure.
But we are about to get a nice little shot of adrenaline, aka hope, into the fan base, and this is a nice little appetizer for that. Nebraska will soon announce its next head coach, and they will go into it with a win against Iowa on Black Friday. Back to the phones on Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. We have Austin next. Hi, Austin. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Hi, Connor. Hi, Robbie. I'm going to try to make this as concise as I possibly can. Can you guys just highlight how incompetent the team had to be? How many things had to go perfectly wrong in the timely manner that they did for that to become a game? I famously went back and forth with Gary about why Grant plays, because quite frankly, I think he doesn't make the most of this offensive line, which doesn't stay unblocked, but that's another story. But I wanted Ramir, and then Ramir famously fumbles inside field goal range with an offense with a backup quarterback. So really all I got, just so many things. Honestly, I still think Mickey Joseph is the best guy for this team, but I understand why you can't really hire him as a head coach. You need a safe hire. So look forward to seeing what's next.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate the call. Look, there was definitely some bad things, and I don't know if it was so much as, explicitly errors, right, that led to Nebraska almost blowing that lead.
The fumble was the only real
The fumble
one.
Was the big one.
Yeah.
The fumble was the big shot to the gut.
But they only gave up a field goal on that too.
It was more so just not doing anything.
Yeah. The offense completely bogging down. Although a lot of their early offense was created off of those turnovers we saw with the strip sacks. So it's not like,
look, if you go 4-1 in a game on turnovers against Iowa, you better win.
You have to win.
You better win.
You have to win. And honestly, the only real, if I'm trying to, we only got to see it once, obviously, before we're trying to analyze it here. But the big offensive chunk was that first touchdown to Palmer, right? That 87-yarder.
Correct.
After that, they had the 2 touchdowns off of the fumbles.
They had a fumble and then another fumble that led to a 17-0 lead. Nebraska scored their 3rd touchdown off of an Iowa punt.
Okay. So 10 of the 24 points were directly off turnovers.
Yeah, but it was a short drive. What am I?
Yeah, 7 were on the 87-yarder by Palmer from Thompson, and then the last one was off of a sort of normal drive with a short field from an Iowa punt.
Yeah.
So
look, it's hard because it was obviously bad in the second half. If you want to talk about that, fine, and Austin does, but here's the deal.
And there's plenty of complaints about
Nebraska's offensive
Grant.
Coordinator is not going to be their offensive coordinator next year.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
I dare to say their running back is probably not going to be their running back next year. I dare to say their quarterback probably won't be their quarterback next year. We'll see.
Fair.
We'll see what happens on all of those things. But this is about, saying you won the game, full stop. Mickey Joseph says afterwards, you get the black shirts back. And you stop and you hire a coach on Saturday or Sunday, and you start this off-season hype train as much as you possibly can. Not to say that it's not going to be a long road to get Nebraska back to where it wants to be, although we'll convince ourselves of a lot of things this offseason. But it's a positive day. You lost to Iowa 7 straight times, man.
Listen,
you lost to Iowa 7 straight times.
Winning against Iowa is always a good day.
Yes.
That full stop, right? Maybe it didn't look as pretty as we wanted it to in the second half, and I was complaining. I mean, look, you can look at my Twitter. I was complaining of as much as anyone as it was happening, but winning against Iowa is always a good day.
And how about the guys from last week who we talked about on senior day, or whether or not they were seniors or whatever, they had been around a long time and they hadn't gone to a bowl game and they hadn't beaten Iowa and they hadn't beaten Wisconsin. They still haven't beat Wisconsin, but they've beaten Iowa.
They broke the streak against Iowa.
They've beaten Iowa.
That's a good thing.
And they finished a career with a win. You finish the season with a win. The last time Nebraska did that was 2015 in the Foster Farms Bowl.
I believe that's correct. I think
that's right. And that led to an overwhelming sense of momentum in the offseason and propelled Nebraska to a 7-0 start in 2016.
It did. Yeah. People forget. It's been a while.
I'm just saying that's what we're talking about.
Beating Iowa, keeping Iowa out of the West Division Championship, keeping them out of the Big Ten Championship game. That's all a good thing.
Jim is next on Big Red Overreaction. Hi, Jim. What's up?
Well, good evening, guys. I'm going to try to avoid using 4-letter words right now. But why we don't hire Mickey Joseph is beyond me. He's responsible for bringing in the person who broke Johnny Rogers and Stanley Morgan's record, and you're not going to give him a chance. It wasn't his fault that he had one of the worst offensive lines we've ever had. You're not going to get a better recruiter, find a better recruiter in college football than Mickey Joseph, and that's what this team needs. This team needs talent. They need talent that can compete with the Alabamas and the Ohio State. And you're not going to get it with Matt Rule. That's all I've got to say, guys. I'll hang up and listen to you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Well, Mickey Joseph is certainly a good recruiter.
He is. There's a lot of good recruiters in college football, though.
And a lot of good recruiters in college football that aren't head coaches.
Yeah.
That's
most
mostly,
of them. Most of them. Like
aren't.
literally almost all of them. Because the head coach's job generally is not recruiting that much.
Clearly,
there is a certain portion of it.
And we've talked about this, various times throughout the Mickey Joseph tenure now. And there's some things that pop up during the game. It's like, why are we taking a timeout here? What was the sort of, you going for this, you kicking this, and all that stuff can be second guessed regardless of who the head coach is. But we know this, and I think Mickey would probably admit this to you too, and he has at various points this year. It takes time to grow into that role. He has not done it before.
No.
And that's,
that's not a luxury Nebraska currently has.
I don't think so either. And when you can potentially keep Mickey, we'll see if they do, as a guy who is on the staff
and can still recruit,
doing his thing from a recruiting standpoint and being a good wide receivers coach
I think they suffered when he had to move to the head coaching role, by the way. I think they regressed.
And a really, really great asset to your program. You can keep him and he can still do all of those things, and he doesn't have to be the head coach at the University of Nebraska.
And you don't have to go through the growing pains of breaking in a first-time head coach at a really, this is a really big job that the next head coach is undertaking.
Yep.
This is not an easy, just slide right in there, everything's already in place, take over type of job. This is a rebuild.
This is a rebuild.
You know who's done really well at rebuilds?
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule has done really well at rebuilds.
Yeah.
Into really difficult situations.
Yep.
That's a good guy for this job.
He's got experience doing it.
That is a really good guy for this job.
I think so too. Nick is our next caller on Big Red Overreaction. Hi, Nick. What's up?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Excellent.
Oh, yes. It's always good, isn't it?
It feels really good. I've been the host on Big Red Overreaction on at least 2 of Nebraska's wins this year. I did North Dakota and this one. Can I take credit for any more? Let's see. I did. Ravi, you and I did Rutgers.
We did. Yes, that was a win. W.
And their other win was against Purdue, right?
No, they lost to Purdue. Indiana.
I didn't do that one. So I got 3 out of 4 wins, Nick. I feel good about that.
I got 2 out of 4. I'll take it.
There you go, fellas. All I want to say is, let's get you guys on the show more often. We'll get some more dubs in the column, huh?
That's what I'm talking about, Nick. That's what I'm talking about.
Dude, I am so hyped right now. I don't care about how the season went. It just feels so good to get a win going into the Christmas season and into the off season where we're going to win another national championship. All I got to say, fellas, is Iowa football, man, What happened? Let's go, fellas. We got it done. Love the show, fellas. Hey, let's have a good night.
I like it, Nick. I like it a lot. What happened?
Iowa football. What happened?
So
Good question.
Here's a great thing about rivalries. You live next door to these people. They live among us. There's plenty of Iowa fans here in our lovely city of Omaha. There are plenty of Nebraska fans in Des Moines and Iowa City
Council Bluffs
and everywhere in between. And you just haven't been able to say a word to them for about the last, 8 years.
Yeah, because all they have to say is scoreboard.
And we won. We won the football game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't care how many national championships we got. What happened last time we played each other?
It's like when Nebraska ball people try and talk to Creighton people.
Okay. Got to give the Creighton Homer take at some point during the show.
I'm sorry. I'm done.
This is a big deal. I don't want to. I don't want to blow it out of proportion too much because at the end of the day, Nebraska went 4-8 and they had a bad football team and
they almost blew a 24-0 lead.
And it was
to be fair,
and it was a lost season. You fired your coach, but you're moving into the next era of Nebraska football with some positivity behind you, and you are now the owners of that Heroes Trophy, however corporate it may be, and you get to bring it back home and you get to show it off next year. And if you win it again next year, you parade it around and you spoiled Iowa's chance to get to their second consecutive Big Ten championship game, which is a huge deal. It's a massive deal. So
yeah, at this point, that was the only thing that was on the table. And listen, if I can't have good things for the team that I want to have good things for, I would rather keep the good things from the team that I hate.
Exactly. It's the greatest second.
It's the second best thing that there is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I don't get the good things. Well, neither do you.
Yep.
These are we're taking these away. We're giving them to Purdue.
I love that. You just give them to anybody else.
Anybody but Iowa.
That's gonna be a tough one to swallow there in Iowa City.
Oh yeah.
Hey, regardless of how they played the second half. Ooh,
you had
with how much momentum they had coming into the game.
They were playing better.
They were playing much better.
This was the best they played all year coming into this game, and all they had in front of them was a 3-8 Nebraska team.
Yeah.
In order to go to the Big Ten championship.
I don't know what happens with,
and they couldn't do it.
I don't know. Well, Brian is always under some level of scrutiny, but obviously, and when you saw, your mic cord always comes up in there. But when it's just the cord on the bottom of there. Anyway, let's go to our next phone caller here on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Burton. When you're plumbing certain, just call Burton. Jacob is next on Big Red Overreaction. Hi, Jacob.
How are you guys doing this evening?
Excellent. How are you?
Not too bad. Hey, question for you. Number one, I think I really like the Matt Rule hire, although I will disagree with you guys on one point. I like the term reboot over rebuild because I think that a lot of the player personnel, the athletic personnel, the on-field personnel is there despite what you're losing. Just curious if you guys would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think there are some glaring holes. I don't think it's a roster totally vacant of talent. I think there are some places where you're in not bad shape, especially on the defense. I like a lot of those guys. But I do think there are places where you need a decent amount of help.
Yeah, I would point at the offensive line as a big one. But anyways, yeah. Just a real quick question. I'll let you guys go. Do you guys, I mean, obviously me personally, I like the Matt Rule hire, especially with the position that they're in. But do you guys, because you're going to get a mixture of phone calls tonight, I'm just really curious if you guys actually think that Mickey Joseph is the right person for the job, even given his short tenure, or if you think it should be somebody else. And have a good night.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, as I've said all along, Mickey Joseph is a fantastic asset to any football program from his recruiting prowess. And look what he's done in a situational flux over the last couple months here. Even from the recruiting standpoint.
Yeah.
With that being said, no, I think there's better options to be the head coach. And I think Nebraska found one of them, potentially, if they are to hire Matt Rule in the coming days, which we would expect at this point. And I think they probably kept that as quiet as they possibly could today, because today is today and there's a football game and you want to be respectful of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear, something shortly. But yeah, I think Nebraska has a better option in Matt Rule than Mickey Joseph. If we're talking about those two.
Yeah. If that's and that appears to be the direction it's leaning, right?
Yeah.
I tend to agree. I don't think, honestly, where I was out on Mickey Joseph as a candidate this year, is when there appeared to be a struggle between him and Whipple about how the offense needed to be run, and he did not win that struggle. If you're the head coach, there's some leadership there that you have to show, and a more experienced head coach probably is able to either get his OC in line or find somebody else who will be. And that to me was a huge red flag about just doesn't have the experience of handling a staff and all these other things that go along with being a head coach. It's not just about the football stuff. It's a lot about handling and managing people.
Yeah. So this is sort of what you wonder with all the candidates, and you can never really predict this. I actually think Mickey would have done pretty well here, and he's not going to be the guy. And I just, I think that's almost a foregone conclusion at this point, if not a completely foregone conclusion based on how you feel about where Nebraska's at in their negotiations with Matt Rule at the moment. But it's about sort of your staff that you assemble and the people that you're able to bring in. I actually think Mickey would have done an okay job at that, to surround him. Because one thing that I like about him, and Ravi, we've talked about this before, is his ability to sort of understand what his weaknesses are and have a self-awareness. That can get in the way of coaches a lot of the time. Their egos and
saw it get in the way with the previous head coach.
Yeah, and while Mickey has a little bit of that, but it's a solid amount. It's a good amount to be the head coach. But he understands his weaknesses and he understands where he would need help. So I actually think he would have done a pretty good job at putting the staff together. It is the experience part that is key. I'm interested to see how it goes with Rule and if he is the guy.
It's just a much safer hire. It's a much safer hire, and I don't think it robs you of the upside. It's not like like Lance Leipold is a safer hire, but you probably don't have a ton of upside there with his age and his experience and things like that. Matt Rule got both Baylor and Temple to double-digit wins within 3 seasons. That's a pretty good upside hire.
I'm curious about this though, with Rule, and I want to get right back to the phones here in just a second. But if it is Rule, he comes with a brand. He comes with some isms.
Sure.
He's got some catchphrases, it's very much a college football program that he would run.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
This is
I think
notoriously a college football job.
Yeah.
Robbie.
People forget.
But as far as like the brand of the program, you're almost shifting it over to, it's Matt Rule's not the face of it, which I like. PJ Fleck, when he talks about his program, he's sort of the face of his operation.
If you would have hired PJ Fleck or Lane Kiffin or Deion Sanders or Urban Meyer,
you're turning the brand over
to that person.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not quite as much with Rule, but he has some things that he believes and that you'll hear his players say.
I think it's a strong presence for sure.
And it's a strong presence. But I'm interested to see how that goes, because this is a place where I don't think we're particularly comfortable with that.
I don't either, but I would also argue I don't think Nebraska has been particularly strong in its brand for a while.
No.
Like the letter, like the block N, I think carries some weight. I think the name carries some weight. But how would you even describe Nebraska's brand at this point?
Yeah, no,
it'd be really hard to.
Exactly.
So I think there's a level of comfortability with a coach having some of that than there used to be. I think it's necessary, to be honest.
Back to the phones. We'll take one more before we take another break here, but you guys can continue to call in 402-951-1620. What show is this? Big Red Overreaction.
What? You've never hosted that show.
Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. Mike is our next caller. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, Big Red Overreaction. The second time I've been on the air. Last time was the exact same game last year.
Okay. Didn't go well. Didn't end well.
So I asked you a specific question last year, what our offensive identity was going to be moving forward. And I'm going to ask you the same question. What does the new coach, with or without the players he had, offensive identity going to be to win the Big Ten?
All right, Mike, thanks for the call. Well, here's the thing about answering that question this year. We don't know.
No, we don't know.
And we don't know who their head coach is, although we are assuming it's Matt Rule. We don't know who their offensive coordinator would be had he.
But if you're asking what Matt Rule has done, typically he's done a lot of RPO.
Yeah.
A lot of RPO-based things and all of the options that you can do off of that look.
Yeah, I don't like. it's a system and it's a scheme and what he's done in the past, and he's really done a good job of adjusting to sort of what he has.
Yeah, his personnel. I don't think he's locked in on we have to do this regardless of who my players are.
He's played with a lot of different quarterbacks,
different types of quarterbacks,
who
different players,
different things.
Yeah.
And that's all positive. It's especially positive when you think about Casey Thompson, who could do a lot of different things for you, but has weaknesses in some area. Like if you bring him back, you could make that really work. I guess I can't answer that question. Really.
Yeah, until we know what his staff looks like and what the roster looks like with the staff, then we could have a better idea probably of what it looks like.
But you don't need to overwhelmingly look like Wisconsin or Minnesota or Iowa to win the Big Ten.
I've said this.
You have to have some of the things that
you
they
have to have quality line play on both sides. And then I've said this the entire time, any system will work with quality line play.
Yep.
That's all. As long as you can execute, any system will work with quality line play. The hallmark of the Big Ten is line play. It's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust or whatever. It's the line play.
Yep.
Anything you do off of that is fine.
And by the way, there is a absence of great quarterback play, particularly in this division, which will be gone after next year.
But largely in the league in general. I mean, outside of CJ Stroud,
quarterback in forever. You know, with I guess it was Fields, but before that it was like Drew Brees.
Oh, Drew Brees was a second rounder.
There you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
It's been a very long time. But yeah, outside of the Ohio State quarterbacks, who at the very least are good college quarterbacks, even if they are Haskins went first round also. Dwayne Haskins.
Yes, he did.
But outside of the Ohio State quarterbacks who are always very, very successful, I mean, Michigan has struggled at the quarterback position. Penn State has struggled at the quarterback position since McGloin left. Who was not that good. He was a really good college quarterback, but not a pro prospect. I mean, Purdue usually has somebody who's okay in their system, but not a outstanding quarterback. Like there's not outside of Ohio State, there is not consistently good quarterback play anywhere else in this league.
Yeah, and the teams that make runs, your undefeated Iowa teams or whatever it might be in between, they find a way to minimize the amount of turnovers,
or they catch lightning in a bottle, or something like that. You had the one random Russell Wilson year at Wisconsin when they were really good. Like you catch things every once in a while.
I guess how I'd answer that question would be, I would like to see Nebraska be in a place where they are not solely and inherently focused on the quarterback, and their quarterback's play is not exclusively dependent on how good or bad their offense is. It's been about 4 or 5 straight quarterbacks where it's been that way now.
It's their entire offense is the quarterback.
I mean, look at what happened. And obviously, you know, this is because it always is bad or worse when you bring in your backup quarterback. But when that quarterback has a bad day, it's tough to survive those games.
Mm-hmm.
When Taylor Martinez had a bad day, it was tough to live. When Adrian Martinez had a bad day, it was tough to live. So that's where Nebraska's sort of been. And that speaks to a lot of different things, meaning the total overall roster talent and how your coaches decide to run your offense. And all that stuff does need to be improved. Okay, let's see here. Ben is going to be next after the break. Then we'll have Wayne, Jeff, Vince, all you guys hang on the line, and there will still be room for more. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill, and it's with you as we continue on into the night after Nebraska beats Iowa tonight and claims the Heroes Trophy 24-17. Back with more next on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
Got a sink that won't drain? For a limited time, we'll open your drain for only $93 or it's free. Hi, I'm Mark Evans, owner of Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. Sometimes a plunger just isn't enough. Burton's team of experts is on call 24/7 for emergency repairs. We offer upfront pricing, and your 100% satisfaction is guaranteed. Call for details on our 93 or free special or request service at justcallburton.com.
Sunday morning is all about church, eggs, and the Sunday paper. But right next to church, it's made for hot takes and reactions. Severe Reactions. Michael Severe is back on 1620 The Zone with Severe Reaction. Sundays 8 to 10 and doesn't hold back on what went right and what went wrong on Saturday. He'll also take calls from the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction. Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Powered by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
It's Big Red Overreaction. Brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Big Red Overreaction continues in 1 minute on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do it with a Coors Light. Mountain Cold Refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call on the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
More info and opinions on Big Red than one station can handle. Now on 2 stations. Big Red Overreaction postgame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K. Sound on 402-951-1620. Big Red Overreaction is sponsored by Burton AC, Heating, Plumbing, and more. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. And Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill.
Bushini, who had just a 29-yard punt last time. Oh, it's dropped! Oh, my goodness, it's recovered by Nebraska! Alante Brown jumped on it. Arlen Bruce coughs it up. It's the 3rd Iowa turnover in the game.
What a weird sight to behold. Iowa making special teams errors.
It was wild.
I mean, just ridiculous to see.
It was crazy. Like, that's so out of character.
Yeah, I mean, and they still almost got back into the game. By the way, I was just talking about this during the break. I want to get back to the phones real quick here. But Nebraska's offense put up 24 points today with aid from its defense, putting in good spots, obviously off of a few turnovers, and a special teams play as well. They scored 24 points on one of the top defenses, if not the top defense in the country, and probably left 7 to 10 out there.
Well, I mean, at least 3 for sure with the missed field goal.
You missed a field goal. You had a field goal on their 3 on the 3rd drive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 6. I mean, at least. And there was a couple drives. Was there any more where they ended in Iowa territory besides that final one where they had to punt there?
I don't.
Yes, the one before they went into half.
Okay,
that was basically it. Yeah. So I mean, you could argue that they left another 6 or 7 out there.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I don't know, a pretty good effort, which led to a Twitter account called Hawkeye Chronicles saying today at midnight this morning, if Nebraska scores 20 plus points on Iowa, I'll delete my account. Well, see you later, Hawkeye Chronicles.
24 points.
Goodbye.
Famously more than 20.
We'll be sad to never see you again. Ben is our next caller on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Hey, Ben, what's up?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, as a Husker fan, I am like extremely happy because it's been 7 years now since we beat Iowa. So take the season for what it is. Like, me and my family have been celebrating ever since the final whistle blew that we beat Iowa. Granted, it was a 4-8 season, but
who cares? Keep celebrating, Ben. Keep celebrating.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just wanted to throw out too, like before the game started, my brother and my dad and I, we were all paying attention to social media and saw that Matt Rule is going to be, the next head guy here. And I'm not completely sold on Matt Rule. I looked at his college record through Temple and Baylor and, through the NFL. He's got a 5.22 coaching record in college football. So I'm not completely sold on Matt Rule. I would hope that he could, bring some coaches in with him that have been proven at the Division I level. But aside from that, I'm just going to keep drinking Busch Light and partying all night.
Hey,
Thanks, guys.
You keep doing your thing, Ben. We're going to join you here shortly. Appreciate the call. I'll say this: the key thing that a head coach can do, immediately is, and this is before roster retention, which is going to come into the picture really, really quick here.
Yep.
As the portal ends up opening shortly, but hiring coordinators. What kind of coaches are you bringing along with you from that regard? And at Nebraska, in the Big Ten, who's your offensive line coach and who's your defensive line coach?
And who's your strength and conditioning coach?
And who's your strength and conditioning coach too? And that's they're all big.
Yeah.
But Nebraska has not had an offensive line coach he hasn't left the building and we've said, oh, that guy's a much maligned offensive line coach. Nebraska will complete another round of a much maligned offensive line coach with Donnie Raiola this time around. And I think the same kind of can be said along the defensive line too. There is a guy that's been thrown out there. He's been with Rule at a whole bunch of different places. Defensive line coach. He's currently at Texas A&M. Their defensive line coach, his name is Elijah Robinson. Here's the other thing that I like about Rule, the Texas recruiting angle there, which is pretty good, and a place that Nebraska needs to get back into.
Heavily reported on that the Texas high school football coaches love Matt Rule, to the point where one of the national guys, it might have been Thamel, I'm trying to remember, said if you polled the top 300 high school coaches in Texas, the vast majority would say that their favorite football coach is Matt Rule.
That's not nothing.
That's a huge deal. And he did a really good job when he got to Baylor of ingratiating himself into the culture and into the high school football scene. I imagine he'll do the same thing in Nebraska and continue to work those Texas ties, and if he does keep Mickey Joseph, or if Mickey Joseph chooses to stay here, if you've got inroads into Texas and Louisiana, that's a hell of a start.
Yeah, really, really good.
That puts you in a good spot.
And he's got some East Coast, connections too.
Yeah,
from the Northeast.
He's Penn State guy originally. Yep. Has some familiarity with the Big Ten because of that. I like that he's been a lot of places,
experiences in a lot of places doing different things,
yes.
Even in the NFL. And I know he bombed out at Carolina, but that experience can help a guy too. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that a guy fails. I wish Scott Frost would have failed once before he got here.
Yeah,
I think that would have helped him a lot.
You can learn.
Yeah.
You can learn from things. And, I know that it's really easy to look at Matt Rule's overall record and be like, oh, he's only 5-22 or whatever that guy said as a head coach. Here's the thing. A lot of times when he takes over these programs, they're in really bad shape.
And they're bad right away.
And they're bad in that first season. Yeah. But 3 of his 7 seasons as a head coach have finished in double-digit wins.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
That's a good, and it
takes back-to-back 10-win seasons at Temple. By his third year at both Temple and at Baylor, they were in double-digit wins.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's Temple and Baylor, guys.
That's Baylor coming off of the Art Briles situation, and then Temple being Temple. I mean, those are impressive turnarounds.
Back to the phones on Big Red Overreaction. We have Wayne, who is next on the show. Wayne, thanks for holding. What's going on?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm going to push back just slightly on the coaching thing here. There's a narrative among everyone that Mickey Joseph doesn't have any head coaching experience, and that's one factor, but it shouldn't be the only factor. Stick with me on this. Here's the people since Devaney that didn't have head coaching experience: Tom Osborne, Frank Solich, and Bo Pelini. Here's the ones who did: Mike Riley, Scott Frost, and Bill Callahan. And so I think, and also let's throw in 2 more things before I get off the phone here. Bill Bush has been an incredible defensive coordinator. You can't say after watching that game that our defense was worse than Iowa's. He's built this ragtag bunch of really incompetent players at the beginning of the season into a top shelf defense. And I think Whipple has really submarined Mickey's chances as head coach. I think if you gave Mickey the reins and we brought in, spend some money, give him $3 million a year, pay $2 million a year for a really hot shot offensive coordinator, and Mickey's built the culture and by the arguments you guys are making, well, you wouldn't have wanted to hire Tom Osborne. We could have brought in Frank Broyles or somebody like that. So there's my point. Interested to see what you have to say about that.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the call. Well, I guess now is the time to introduce a little something that I like to call context
and nuance.
Yes, it is true that Nebraska, notably Nebraska's best coach of all time did not have head coaching experience prior to becoming the head coach at Nebraska. That was also 1974,
two, I believe 72,
somewhere around there.
Also, famously coming off of
a national championship,
2 national championships.
Yeah.
Important. So
an important note.
A bit of different context. And you want to go Frank Solich? Oh, also famously coming off of a national championship and having basically taking over Alabama is what it would be like today.
Yeah. I mean, the Nebraska job in 19...
It was taking over Alabama. Yeah. Tom Osborne's first year was 73. He was hired at the end of 72.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 1 year removed from back-to-back national championships is a different place than Nebraska's in now. Coming and taking over for Frank Solich after 3 championships in 4 years is a very different place than Nebraska is right now.
And it's not just that Matt Rule has head coaching experience. It's that Matt Rule has head coaching experience doing the exact job that Nebraska would need him to do.
Yes, which is very specific head coaching experience.
Which is turning the program from something that you don't want it to look like, which is what it is right now, and making it something that you can be proud of in a year or 2 or 3. Now, once again, I don't like we do all this and it comes off as, oh, well, you guys don't like Mickey or what's wrong with Mickey? Nothing's wrong with Mickey Joseph.
We would love Mickey to still be here. We would love him to be on staff.
Nothing is wrong with Mickey Joseph. I like, once again, we started the show tonight. I want to thank Mickey Joseph because this
thing could have got so ugly.
He made some chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what this year. It
could have gotten so ugly.
They just beat Iowa.
Which is awesome.
Mickey Joseph owns the win over Iowa in the last 8 years, which is, or I guess 7 years.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to think about. But I think you can get what Mickey brings to the table as a wide receiver coach or as an offensive coordinator or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Whatever Mickey Joseph's spot on the staff would be. And I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know if he's interested in that and sticking around. And for that matter, it's the same thing with Bill Busch. Bill Busch is awesome.
He's done a really good job.
Bill Busch has done a fantastic job.
He did a good job with the special teams before he took over the defense. He did a really good job with the defense once he did.
But when you hand over the reins to a new coach, which Nebraska will be doing,
you can't tie them to you can't tie them to assistants.
And they bring in who they're going to bring in, and you have to let that happen. And you have to let that happen in terms of how the roster works as well.
Yeah.
And that's the hard reality, I think, of the next weeks and a month here, I suppose, before we go to the new year.
As we get into transfer portal and early signing period.
There's going to be some things that happen that probably don't
that
look
you wish
good
didn't happen,
and you're not going to like.
Yeah.
But it's a new head coach, right? And that is just what happens when you get a new head coach. Back to the phones, we have Vince in wine country. Vince in Napa. Hey, Vince, bloody knuckles tonight?
I can promise you that's going to come sometime within the context of this call, but I'll build my way towards that. But let's see. First of all, as far as today's game is concerned, I mean, it felt both hollow and it felt good at the same time. I mean, hollow because the season ends up 4-8. So I mean, it doesn't take away from the other disappointments, but at the same time, at least it's something we can feel good of. We as a fan base and the program can feel good about going into the off season, because this isn't like 2 years ago where where in the COVID year you finished the season by beating Rutgers. I mean, a win over Iowa, that moves the needle. That moves the needle a little bit, or more than a little bit, because we hadn't done it since 2014. But as far as the whole coaching thing, I mean, if it happens, because with Mickey. I mean, again, I commend him. I think he did a good job under the circumstances, and I think the team did get better. I mean, he acted more like a head coach than Scott Frost ever did.
Sure.
But most of but where I kind of started to become out on him as the head coach, and don't get me wrong, I would love to keep him, whoever the head coach is, and it looks like it's going to be Matt Rule, but. I mean, well, keep in mind, I mean, we blew 2 games where we had a 10-point lead, Wisconsin and Minnesota. And to me, I know interim coaches aren't set up to succeed, but you got to win the games that are in your wheelhouse. And but as far as Matt Rule is concerned, I mean, I'm neither going to get too overly excited or too overly disappointed, because I think if there's one thing that we as a fan base should learn from the Scott Frost experience is, well, I mean, when Scott Frost came in, I mean, we were all, most of us anyway, were as sure as Monday comes after Sunday that it was going to work. Not necessarily winning national titles, but at least get it back to where Frank and Bo had it, and so again, so I think whoever steps in, we as a fan base, I think, have a little bit of PTSD when it comes to that.
Sure.
But, but I will kind of have to push back on what your colleague John Bishop had alluded to a couple of weeks ago. And I agree with John on a lot of things, but this one I kind of don't. I mean, he said to the effect on, I forget which game it was, but how, if Nebraska makes bowl eligibility, the minimum appearance, they're doing it wrong, and it's about resetting the foundation. Well, sure, we need a new foundation. There's no question about it. But part of setting a new foundation is establishing a winning mindset, and you're not going to get rid of a losing mindset if you continue to lose. And now, I'm not saying we should expect a 9-win team overnight, but I don't think it's too much to ask to, become bowl eligibility by no later than year number 2 anyway. And, but what I like about Matt Rule, and there's a lot of things you guys have alluded to, but he kind of knows what the Big Ten blueprint is as far as line play. But I would also make the point that line play isn't just about conference. I don't care if you're talking Big Ten, Pac-10, whatever. I mean, if you're deficient in the line, you're going to get exposed one way or the other. But I'll tell you another thing, fellas. When you've got strong line play, there's 2 things that happen. Number one, you either feel pressure or you apply pressure. And when you've got a line that can take over a damn game, you can apply pressure for 60 minutes and fight with bloody knuckles. Hell yeah, baby!
There it was. Thank you, Vince. Have a great offseason. We'll miss you.
Love you, Vince.
Can apply pressure. He's right. When you have a good offensive line. I actually appreciate, this is a good thing. This is a healthy thing. I appreciate the healthy dose of skepticism as it pertains to the Nebraska hire. It is a good thing. It was too obvious and too simple last time around. These things aren't necessarily supposed to be easy.
Listen, when I say I believe Matt Rule is a good hire, that by no means guarantees success. We know that, right? We've learned that the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing guarantees success. I do think it is a good move to help get you to be a successful football program again, but there is no guarantees here. And saying that Matt Rule is a better hire than Mickey Joseph is not an indictment on Mickey Joseph.
And it doesn't mean that it's going to work.
It still doesn't mean it's going to work.
A hire is the hire. Scott Frost was a great hire.
It was a great hire. He was a terrible football coach, but he was a great hire.
Yeah, so you pick one.
So,
you want to get a football coach, you want to get hired.
There is an inherent risk no matter who you go with. But the risk profile for a guy like Mickey, who doesn't have coordinator experience, doesn't have head coach experience, has only been in the Power 5 for 5 years, doesn't have a lot of the check marks you would look for your next head coach if you're looking for somebody with a low risk profile. Matt Rule checks a lot of those boxes. He's got a lot of those things under his belt where you can say, hey, yeah, he's done a lot of these things that you would want to see from a guy to lower the chance of it not working.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately a good thing with the fan base.
But yeah, you shouldn't be like, oh, we're going to the national title next year.
Right.
Like that's what it felt like with Frost, and having a measured response is positive. I agree with you.
Another phone call here from Matt on the Les Hills Harley-Davidson hotline, by the way. Hey, Matt, what's going on? You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Not much, but I'm sure glad that we'll finally get to etch our name on that trophy for the first time in 7 years.
Heroes trophy.
Nice. It's nice.
It's about time.
Did you see it getting passed around to the fans by Garrett Nelson? I thought that was pretty good.
It was awesome. Did you see the Husker helmet get placed on the football?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Awesome. That was awesome. I'll tell you what, the reason why I called is I think there was a couple of weeks ago where some Hawkeye fan tried to Hawkeye explain our program. I think his name was Lonnie or something.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope Lonnie remembers to cancel his reservations for the hotel there in Indy.
So.
Anyway, nothing sweeter than ruining that.
Beautiful, Matt. Thank you for the call.
Good night,
Appreciate it. Yes.
Bye.
Tell Lonnie to cancel his hotel in Indy. No shrimp cocktail for you, Lonnie. Big Red Overreaction, by the way, brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. Speaking, I think we have an Iowa caller here. We have Joel on the line.
Okay.
Let's see how Joel follows this thing up. Hey, Joel, what's up?
Hey, guys. Love your show. Just calling in. I had a fantastic day today. It felt so good to have the reports about Matt Rule come out and then beat Iowa. Been living in Eastern Iowa for the last 5 years, and I'm a preacher. So we keep losing these guys, and I have to stand up there and face the music. And it's tough. It wears on me. And so I'm not going to say a word on Sunday. I'm just going to write it out. I'm a fan of a team that has won multiple national championships, and I'm just going to ride like we were meant to be there.
Hey, that's the Nebraska way, Joel.
Just wear like a Nebraska quarter zip, but don't say a word.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything.
Right. And I guess what I wanted to say is I'm so looking forward to the next 2 months, just because one of the reasons I think Matt Rule is a great hire is he gets to kind of pick assistants like their fantasy football players. A lot of these other candidates, we're going to have staff coming with them. They needed to be loyal to, and so if it's Dave Doreen or Matt Campbell or Chris Kleinman, guys that have been with them for a long time that they would need to take with them. And I think Matt Rule has this kind of unique opportunity to, I guess, cut bait with guys who had been with him in previous spots because of how things ended in Carolina, and just kind of take the best of the field. And so I'm looking forward to just following the news. I guess with you guys over the next couple of months, it's going to be so exciting with the assistant hires and then the craziness of recruiting, the transfer portal. And it's just going to be really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Coaching search was kind of fun, but we just chewed on it too long.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
But I think the next couple months to follow the news as a Husker fan is really exciting. And I'm looking forward to it. Look forward to listening to you guys talk about it. Thank
you, Joel. Appreciate it. And stay strong in Eastern Iowa.
Listen, just put on, like I said, you put on that Husker quarter zip or polo or whatever you have tomorrow when you're up there at the pulpit. Don't say a word. Just proudly wear that red N and don't say a word.
And he's right. He found the right place. We'll be covering it all here on 1620
We will.
The Zone, including if and when a coach is announced.
Officially announced.
We will be with you here on 1620 The Zone for 4 hours of uninterrupted coverage.
What?
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty big deal. You'll hear the press conference right here on 1620 The Zone whenever it may happen, whether it's tomorrow or Sunday, or I suppose anytime after that as well.
Yeah.
We will.
Everything's on the table.
Before we take a break here, this is what I love. And I thought Joel and others who have called in from the state of Iowa and or tweeting at us or whatever, this really highlights it. Rivalries are awesome.
They're fun.
Rivalries
They're
in
super
college
fun.
football are amazing.
It's the thing that separates college football from the NFL for me.
Because you have to live with these people. Like they just exist in your world. And if you're a Nebraska fan, there's nothing that triggers you more when you see a guy in a Hawkeye shirt at Hy-Vee and it says, whatever. We went to the Big Ten championship game last year, or we won the Heroes Trophy, or if it just says Iowa, or if you just don't like the color yellow. And these people just live amongst you. And when you lose, and you lose for 7 straight times, that really wears and that really grinds. And Nebraskans can hold their heads high and they can go into the state of Iowa and wear the red again, admit it. You maybe had a trip to Iowa and you thought about it's like, it's a bad time to break out the red end polo.
Yeah, maybe I just wear a neutral color here.
Not anymore.
No, you wear that red end.
Rivalries in college football are the best.
That's right.
People like Joel, we love that. We love examples of that anytime it can happen. Nebraska's won a rivalry game and they claim the Heroes Trophy.
That's right, we did.
They are heroes in my book. 24-17. Winners tonight. Connor Happer, Ravi Lula, Chance Oliver with you on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Burton. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Back with more of your phone calls next on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
Sunday morning is all about church, eggs, and the Sunday paper. But right next to church, it's made for hot takes and reactions. Severe Reactions. Michael Severe is back on 1620 The Zone with Severe Reaction. Sundays 8 to 10 and doesn't hold back on what went right and what went wrong on Saturday. He'll also take calls from the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction. Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Powered by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do, do it with a Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
It's Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Big Red Overreaction continues in 1 minute on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K.
Got a sink that won't drain? For a limited time, we'll open your drain for only $93 or it's free. Hi, I'm Mark Evans, owner of Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. Sometimes a plunger just isn't enough. Burton's team of experts is on call 24/7 for emergency repairs. We offer upfront pricing, and your 100% satisfaction is guaranteed. Call for details on our 93 or free special or request service at justcallburton.com.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
More info and opinions on Big Red than one station can handle. Now on 2 stations. Big Red Overreaction postgame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K. Sound off. 402-951-1620. Big Red Overreaction is sponsored by Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. And Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill.
Thompson was looking that way. It's caught. It's not Palmer. This time it's Marcus Washington. His former Texas teammate is in. And it's 23-0.
That was the last thing we need to talk about from the game, right? I mean, the game just ended right after that, 24-0. And that was kind of the story.
It's my mic. There we go.
Yeah,
Nothing else happened. No, it's not your fault, Chance. It's the cord.
It's the cord. 24-0.
24-0, and then nothing else happened, and somehow the final was 24-17, but doesn't matter.
Defense was great. Offense just did what it had to do.
Everything was cool.
24-0.
Very chill. Nothing weird happened.
Nebraska beats Iowa 24-17.
That's all that matters.
24-17 was your final score.
Focus on the headline here. Nebraska beats Iowa.
And they go 4-8. Once again, Trey Palmer, your leading single season receiving yards receiver in school history.
Yeah.
Taking over Stanley Morgan, over 1,000 yards on the year for him.
It's very good.
I mean,
well done, sir.
And he had a stretch with bad quarterback play, and the game after he went off against Purdue for 235 or whatever it was.
Illinois had one catch for 1 yard, right?
Yep. And then his quarterback was hurt.
Yep, not great.
Playing with like Chubba Purdy and Logan Smothers, who were trying to throw to him for 2 games. And he basically does it in like 10 games.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Or so. And
well done, sir.
That's
congrats to Trey Palmer.
That's what we could shout out Mark Whipple for. He created the greatest single season receiver in Nebraska history.
Yes, sure.
That and nothing else. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by
several L's.
Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Next up on the show is Craig. Craig's been waiting. Hi, Craig.
Coles, what's up?
What's up?
What's up?
No big.
I like that. Yes, agreed.
Hey, shout out to my guys Scott and Marvin in Omaha, my guy JD in Fort Myers. Fellas, listen. If there's 5 more guys that are better than Matt Rule, do we have a list of those 5 guys?
Like
think we're pretty
available,
set.
Not
available
gettable
coaches or
guys.
just guys?
I mean, Lance, okay. Matt, I mean, other than our non-guys that we're not going to hire, we're not going to get Kirby. We're not going to get Nick.
Right.
You know, those guys.
No, he's close to the top of the list.
Guys?
He's close to the top of the list.
Of the available guys, he's definitely in the top 3, 4 at the worst, I think.
Agreed. We sat around today at the Scottsbluff Country Club, and we just kind of waited for bad things to happen, and good things happened, and it was all. Everyone had a great time, and we're all pretty set with Matt Rule. I think if Mickey can stay on, I think it's great. I think if Coach Bush can stay on, I think that's great. I think there's some things we need to shore up, but I mean, this is one thing that moves the needle, and I mean, let's go forward on Saturday or Sunday, and Bev doesn't need to think the room. Hire Matt, and let's go forward, and we're all set out here in the 308. So,
Craig, appreciate it, man.
Show, listen to it every night, and you guys are great.
Awesome, Craig.
Thank you,
Thanks for the
sir.
call. Appreciate it. I will say this. We referenced it earlier, not to be the Debbie Downer here, but I'll just say this. Prepare yourselves for things that if and when the next coach is hired, which let's say it's Matt Rule and let's say it's within the next 48 hours.
Both seem like reasonable takes.
Okay. Just prepare yourself because things are going to happen with the staff and who Matt Rule brings or who he retains or who he doesn't.
That you're not going to love.
You're not going to like it. This is just the way it works in college football head coaching searches. And when you hire a new head coach, I don't think Matt Rule has any connection to Mickey Joseph. If Mickey Joseph isn't here next year, that is going to hurt momentarily.
Yes.
I think for Nebraska football and for Nebraska football fans.
But if you believe that Matt Rule is the right guy for the job,
that's what you got to do.
That would be the indication if they end up going with him. You have to allow him to coach and run the program the way he feels it needs to be run. Matt Rule has an extensive network of coaches from his various stops. He will hire good, quality, professional coaches. Like, I'm not worried about that at all. They may not be names that you know.
Yep.
They may not be names that you...
Or if not, we'll grade him at the time. Like, right?
Yes.
We'll evaluate all those things.
If he comes up with a wild card name that we're like, who the hell?
If he has a bad if he hires a bad wide receiver coach, and
It's
you're like,
gonna
who
look
is this
really
guy?
poor.
And he doesn't retain Mickey Joseph, it's going to be like, okay, what happened here, Matt Rule? And we'll talk about that at the time.
It's going to look really bad. But until that happens, you have to, if he's your guy, you have to let him do it. That's it. I mean, that's how it works.
Yep. And it'll be the same thing with roster retention.
Yeah.
There's going to be guys who transfer.
We've done too much over the years as an athletic department of meddling with different things, whether it be assistants or rosters or head coaches. There's too much of that. If you're going to hire the guy, let him do the job.
Next up on Big Red Overreaction, Connor Hamper, Ravi Lula, Chance Oliver with you this evening. We have Shad, who's been waiting the longest. Shad, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Hey, it feels so much better to talk to you after a win than it does after a loss.
Sure does, man. Amen.
What a wonderful thing it was to watch. And starting with the positive, to see the kids be able to, well, they're young men, but be able to luxuriate in that victory, at the end of the game, they're bouncing around the field. There's some great field level shots of them on social media. If you get a chance to see it.
Really good. I haven't watched
just bouncing around, and that Heroes Trophy to them. You would have thought they won the national title.
That's great to see.
It put a lump in my throat to watch the excitement and the enthusiasm and the enjoyment. And, they clearly got up for that game in a way that I don't think we ever saw during the entirety of the Scott Frost era. And I really hope whoever the coach is and that part of what Mickey has been able to do, whatever he's done in infusing that kind of culture, those guys are playing for the buddy next to him. And they're going into the trenches to fight for the guy who's next to him. And you can see it in not just in the way they reacted after the game, but, just all the way through. They battled, they fought. I love Bill Bush's defense. There's a lot of, and you were laying out some of the pitfalls. Matt Rule better outdo himself in terms of who he brings in,
for sure,
both wide receiver coach and DC, because if it looks, if it doesn't pass muster, there's going to be a lot of critique just right out of the gate.
No doubt.
So I think I think he'd do himself a favor, by keeping Mickey on in some capacity and maybe Bill Bush as well. What Bill Bush has done with that defense, I mean, in the span, you look at what that unit was under Chenander and what it is now, and I defy anybody to say that's not just that's borderline assistant of the year work to be able to turn that unit around. Yeah, they get gashed up the middle sometimes. They still struggle in the trenches. There's times they get blown off the ball, but just on the whole, they look so much better than they did. So I was excited to see them, the guys just be able to soak up the victory. I think it was Alante Brown did a Lambeau leap down at the end of the field and was sitting in the front row with Nebraska fans and getting selfies, and it was just a feel good moment, like we haven't had in a long time. So
no doubt.
Really good to see. If Matt Rule's the guy, I guess we'll watch and wait and see what happens. But I'd sure like to see Mickey Joseph be on the staff in some capacity.
Chad,
you don't think there's any chance that he'll precondition, that maybe Trev can precondition that?
Well,
at all?
I don't think so. I don't think he should. I don't think he should, but I guess there is a chance that he could. But I sort of doubt it.
I almost hung up when you said that it was Mark Whipple's coaching job that gave us Trey Palmer, but I know you were joking about that, and that was a funny moment. So.
Thank you, Shad. Appreciate the call. Thanks for hanging out with us this evening, and you can as well. 402-951-1620 on the Les Hills Harley-Davidson hotline. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. Okay, a couple of things we can get to there from Shad's call. First of all, we can use this opportunity to talk about the presence of Mickey Joseph. What is it if he is here and on staff, whether or not Matt Rule or whoever the next head coach is told like, hey, you got to keep this guy, and he is still here. How long does it continue with the fan base of like, hey, well, Mickey should have been like.
That's part of the problem with keeping Mickey.
I am a little bit curious about that. And
I don't think it's just the fans. You wonder if that exists in the locker room too. Because I think these guys genuinely do love Mickey Joseph, but also famously, there's a reason why college players don't hire coaches. Like they may not have the best feel for what is right. Like you can love your head coach and he might not, or the guy that's, interim head coach, and he might not be the best guy for the job. That's the thing I wonder about with whether or not you would retain him as somebody coming in.
Here's where I would get away from that, I guess. So I guess to argue with myself here, because that's what we do. This is Sports Talk Radio, I suppose. Mickey, and my thing all along on Mickey has been Mickey Joseph is an adult.
Yeah.
And I think that Mickey Joseph would probably shut that down if that was a sense within the walls of that program.
You would hope so.
As quickly as he possibly could. With that being said, I do think he wanted the job.
Yes.
And that's a thing.
It's
here
hard
as well.
It's hard if you want a job to automatically just turn that off if you're Mickey and not act like the head coach anymore. He's been doing it for 2.5 months. That's not a switch that's easy to just turn off because all of a sudden another guy's in that chair. So that's difficult. I do think there is value in sometimes holding a person over from a staff.
For sure.
Just from institutional knowledge, from relationships with the players. I do understand the challenges of doing that with Mickey Joseph because of the position he's been in. But like a Bill Bush is a good example. He's a guy that's done really well here. He's a really good recruiter. He's a total grinder in his career. A lot of people like Brian Applewhite. Like I do see the benefit of holding someone over if they're a good fit with your staff, because there are benefits to it.
Yeah. And whether that's Mickey Joseph or Applewhite or Bush or whoever you think is deserving of it. Yeah. Barrett Rude, I think he's done a pretty good job this year. May have proven his mettle there a little bit. So
that's fair.
They're going to be options in that category. The other thing I want to say on Chad's call. So he talked about grabbing the trophy and being emotional about it and the players having that moment and going to get the trophy. And, I always bring this up, and maybe I'm just, remember, like I'm holding this grudge against Scott Frost. Scott Frost played in a game at UCF when he was the head coach there. And he had his UCF team go up against UConn in a little game called Civil Conflict.
Okay.
It was a game that was not a rivalry, but it was two of the best teams in the conference, and Bob Diaco, the UConn coach, created a game called Civil Conflict and created a trophy, especially for the game, to create an environment of, a game that you want to watch.
Sure.
And like it really had wholesome.
He created a trophy game.
He created a trophy game. However hokey that might be, I think the idea of it is pretty good and a very college football thing to do.
It is very college football-y.
Scott Frost's UCF's team won that game. They did not go get the trophy.
Yep.
There was always a sense from me when Scott Frost was running Nebraska that they were too good for a lot of things.
Despite not being good at all.
Correct. But there was that's the way the program carried itself. And Nebraska's obviously got to get rid of that. If that has ever been a thought that is,
would you call that
through.
Entitlement?
Yeah, I would.
A sense of false entitlement?
I would.
Yeah,
I would. And I hope that's one of the things that got wiped away, and one of the things that Mickey Joseph, I think, was keen on identifying. And then I think that Trev Alberts will not stand for either, and has not stood for either.
Correct. Yes.
In his time as being the Nebraska athletic director. That's an important part to
It's
me.
part of being in the Big Ten, whether you like it or think it's hokey or not.
Yep.
The trophy games and the rivalries. And let's be honest, if you don't hate Iowa, I don't know if you belong in the state.
What's wrong with you?
I don't understand people that don't hate Wisconsin also. I hate Wisconsin. Like, I hate the way that they took everything Nebraska did well, and now they do it better than Nebraska.
Looking at them.
And you're just looking at the mirror, and the mirror is better than you. And that is really frustrating. And also, they always have beat Nebraska for the last decade. Like, it's so frustrating. So I don't understand how you can look at some of these teams. I don't understand how you can look at that Minnesota team that beats you up every year with dramatically less talent and say, I don't hate those guys, because I do. I don't know how you can look at PJ Fleck's stupid face and not hate him.
The teams that have, and this is the Big Ten, the teams that have some extra ulterior motives, whether they're real or not, the extra motivation, those are the teams that walk away with the trophies at the end of the day.
I mean, let's be honest. Extra motives are never real.
They're never real.
I mean, if you watch The Last Dance, you know how much of the stuff that Michael Jordan just made up in his head to get mad at people?
Doesn't matter. He made it up for a reason, because he needed extra.
Because it works.
Yeah.
It works to get that little bit of extra juice.
Who does Michael, like, what reason does Michael Jordan have to hate that one guy who he picked out? I can't remember the guy's name. There's no
one remembers his name. That's the point.
There's no reason.
He just picked a random dude, made up a story, got mad at him, and dropped like a 50 burger the next game on him.
So whatever you got to do to motivate yourself, man. And I do think
the trophy games are just that.
The word entitlement has been a thing in this program for a long time. And now that we're, I think, so clear from Nebraska winning anything of significance, maybe this could be the coach that finally instills that idea, and you can get back to a base level fundamental understanding of what it actually took from those good teams
that you
to be able to get to that
you
point.
Have to go earn it. Just because you're at Nebraska doesn't mean you deserve anything. You still have to go earn it.
One more call before a break. Spencer is our next caller on Big Red Overreaction. Spencer, good evening. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. You guys do a terrific job every show. I'm a first-time caller.
Excellent. Welcome to the show, Spencer.
So I wanted to say, the thing about Matt Rule is that he took over Baylor after the Art Briles mess.
Mm-hmm.
And Temple was a very difficult job.
Always has been.
So he does have that going for him. What would you say is the one weakness or thing that you're skeptical of with Matt Rule? I wanted to ask you guys that with Matt Rule. I wanted to ask you.
I would say how it translates to the Big Ten.
Oh, I can answer that. I have a different answer too.
Go ahead.
My concern is his ability to sustain it. He was only at Temple for 4 years. He was only at Baylor for 3 before leaving for the NFL. I understand leaving each job. Temple to Baylor is a clear upgrade. Baylor to the NFL is a clear upgrade, but I haven't seen him sustain it over 5, 6, 7 years at a program.
And I'll expand on what I said, Spencer, and then we'll let you get back to it. But I would say maybe not so much how it translates, but to the Big Ten. But this is a program that has this sort of proud history and tradition. And Matt Rule hasn't coached at a place like that. Matt Rule has coached at Baylor, where he can sort of be all of Matt Rule. He's coached for the Carolina Panthers, and he wasn't really allowed to be full Matt Rule because it was in a professional environment and the players didn't really take to it. And he coached at Temple, where you could sort of do all of that hokey sort of
You
weird
create
stuff.
the band.
You're
the
gonna
brand.
need buy-in early and significantly. And if you don't, it might be a longer rebuild than you want it to be. But I think it would work to get to the bottom line there. Spencer, any thoughts on that?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I would say at least he played at Penn State as a linebacker.
Yep.
Philadelphia is a huge market. I'm actually from Philadelphia, so I watched Matt in Philly for a while. My main concern is quarterback development. I mean, he took Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Can he create explosive plays? Because when you compare him to the only thing against Matt Rule, when you compare him to Lance Leipold, is Leipold creates explosive passing plays. So I guess that's the only concern with Rule is can he get a great quarterback and can he create explosive plays with receivers? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
That's
like Darnold and the quarterback failure in Carolina.
So that's the thing that we were talking about earlier, and offenses that are based on quarterbacks. Like Leipold's system is very much so based on, what you're going to be able to. I mean, look at Jalen Daniels this year. He's a really, really, really good player, and a lot of what they did is based off him. And
they lose him, and they go 1-6 down the stretch.
Yeah, and you don't want to correlate those exactly, but that's true.
It's a factor.
It happened. And then you
Well,
have
the backups put up numbers there.
Yeah, Bean's been pretty good. Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, you have that piece of it, and I don't want Nebraska to be in a place where they're overly dependent on quarterback. With that being said, you always got to have good quarterback play. But look around, Spencer. Look around the Big Ten. We talked about this earlier too. It's not quarterbacks that win you games in this league. So if they can get above average quarterback play, then that's a lot of times going to put them in good position.
Yeah.
No, and you think about Matt Rule, and you would have never been able to get him 2 years ago when he was at his peak.
Right. Correct. Timing is a lot. Yeah.
No, so I think that Matt Rule, I think the defense is going to be excellent. Like, they're organized, they're going to run the football, which is exactly what you need to do in the Big Ten West. Like, on the surface, it really is the best case scenario. I mean, we were talking Dave Duran and all these other boring names like Bronco Mendenhall. Like, these guys are so boring and terrible at offense. They're horrible. They're horrible on it. So we were talking about that. The one concern, ironically, guys, is if like James Franklin never left Penn State. But that's a dang good problem to have.
Yep.
If Matt Rule's interested in Penn State, that's a good problem. That means that he's doing well at Nebraska.
That's you hit exactly what I was going to say, Spencer. If you're in a position where Penn State wants to poach your coach is doing very well. Very well.
So you guys, like Jeff Monken would have been like fun in a 90s way, but you think this is the safest, best choice, guys, right? Like you guys are in on Matt Rule.
Oh yeah, it doesn't take me much to convince myself.
I think it's a very good hire.
Yeah,
I do.
for sure.
Again, doesn't guarantee success, but of the names that I think were legitimately available, he's probably my second favorite name.
You guys do a great job. Thanks again.
Thank you, Spencer.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Spencer.
the call. And good little nuggets there on a Rule.
Good question
washer.
too.
And a absolutely fair question.
Absolutely.
All right. We still have Jeff and Wade and Kirk on the line, and there's room for you. 402-951-1620. I mean, look, Ravi, I got nowhere to go. I'm kind of hungry, but we can hang out and talk about coaches as long as you want. Yeah. We can talk about Matt Rule as long as you want. We can talk
my mic
about
works,
Nebraska beating Iowa. I'll talk about that all day long.
All day.
Last time Nebraska beat Iowa, I was not yet a host of a daily radio show in the state of Nebraska. It's never happened. I've had a long career. It's been 7 years. I will talk about this for as long as you guys want.
I'm on my second marriage since Nebraska beat Iowa.
Right. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Burton. When you're plumbing certain, just call Burton. Back with more next on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
Hi, I'm Mark Evans, owner of Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. Join us in supporting Food Bank for the Heartland. Right now, if you donate 5 cans of food, you can get a furnace safety inspection and cleaning for only $55. We'll take your donation right to the food bank. Checking your furnace now is a great way to avoid emergencies later. Request service at justcallburton.com.
It's Big Red Overreaction Brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Big Red Overreaction continues in 1 minute on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The K.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do it with a Coors Light. Mountain Cold Refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call on the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Big Red Overreaction is on the air, featuring the most important voice of all, yours. Brought to you by Burton AC, Heating, Plumbing, and more. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. And Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill.
Personal foul. Defense leaping the punch shield, number 29. It'll be a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Man, are you kidding me? Sebastian Castro.
And why? Why?
Today was indeed a good day. Nebraska beat Iowa 24-17. Iowa made another special teams error, which was leaping the punt shield. Sorry, against the rules.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
You can do that.
Big Red Overreaction with Connor Happer, Ravi Lula, Chance Oliver, brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. We head back to the phones on the Les Hills Harley-Davidson hotline for Jeff, who is next. Hey, Jeff, good evening. How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I want to thank Mickey Joseph for having the boys ready to get the first win in 8 years. But personally, I kind of disagree with the rule hire. I think the rule hire it's a repeat of the Mike Riley hire, in my opinion. They have a lot of similar tendencies, just between coming from low leverage programs like Oregon State and Baylor, rising them up, and then going to the NFL. Mike Riley went to the Chargers, Riley went to the Panthers, both franchises not used to winning. And returning back to college, and we haven't seen Rule return back yet, but I feel like it's a big risk for this program when it seems like there's a lot of other options that have yet to be played or even mentioned, such as Coach Peterson, or I think legitimately Mickey Joseph.
Yeah, and thanks for the call, Jeff. Appreciate you. Mike Riley 2.0, Ravi, thoughts?
No. That's inaccurate.
So I said this the other day, and I don't know, but like, people sort of don't like to admit that a lot of the reason that Mike Riley didn't work out at Nebraska, first of all, I don't know why Mike Riley's such a huge boogeyman. Scott Frost just got done winning 25% of his games.
Yeah,
but
first and foremost, Mike Riley was dramatically better than Scott Frost.
19 and 19.
Returning to Mike Riley is the next step in progression before you get good again.
Sure.
Like, you have to go through Mike Riley to get to where you want to go.
But we sort of refuse to acknowledge that Nebraska, in a lot of their coaching hires, what has underlined them, whether we talk about the failures in Callahan and Riley, what underlines them is the lack of administrative help and
institutional support.
Institutional support is important here, but also, institutional over support or overstepping,
meddling
in a lot of cases as well. And that was certainly the case with Mr. Eichhorst and Mr. Riley toward the end there.
Looking at you, Bob Yako.
I think Mike Riley was a pretty good football coach personally.
And also, let's be real.
And I
here.
know that's like, I don't want to end the sentence there, but like, if I would have liked to see that scenario in a situation that was healthy from a standpoint of who hired him and what he was allowed to do, because it was a gutsy hire that they made, obviously, but it was so much that athletic directors that he wanted this full say and vision on how it went and what they were doing. And I just don't think Trev Alberts is that guy.
And that's not an athletic director's job, famously.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say is let's be honest about what happened in that third year, okay? So first year, they go 5-7, make a bowl game, win the bowl game. Second year, they start off 7-0, win 9 games on the season, right? Third year, by game like 3, we're talking about Scott Frost.
Correct. They got lost in Northern Illinois.
So let's not pretend like he even got 3 full years, okay? We bailed on him in 2.25 years.
And so here's the other thing. Like, the idea, in my opinion, of hiring Mike Riley, although he might not have been the right guy for it, the idea of hiring a guy like Mike Riley with his profile is really, really sound.
A guy who maximized the talent that he was able to acquire at a place that was difficult to acquire talent.
Correct. He maximized. He got players there. He got as many players as he could, and then won as many games as he could with them at various points in his Oregon State career. Had a lot of different experience. Had been at USC.
And recruited the hell out of Nebraska, by the way. Like he put together quality recruiting classes at Nebraska.
So, like, I'm never going to say, hey, that idea and how you came up with that, coach, just because of the result that they got, like that whole idea, we have to throw it out the window now.
Also,
what you want to do is get players, and if you're not able to get the highest caliber players that Ohio State or USC or whatever is, then you get pretty good ones, and you're able to make something out of it.
Totally max them out on their talent.
And that's what Mike Riley was doing for a really, really long time at Oregon State. So that idea is a sound one.
Also,
I'm not tossing that in the trash can, because that's what, yes, if you want to connect those dots, that is what Matt Rule is. That is what Matt Rule is. He is able to maximize his players. I will never, ever, ever make that a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. It just simply isn't. Because I don't care if he follows the same track as Mike Riley.
Why? 2 things here. When was the last time Nebraska was relevant in any sense?
I don't know. Probably when they were top 10 that year.
Year 2, Mike Riley.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just put that out there and be honest about what it was. Mike Riley had Nebraska at its last point of relevancy. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you flip that and you say, hey, we get tons of talent, but we don't maximize it, you're Texas. Right? That's what Texas's problem has been for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Or 09. So 13 years. Right? They always get a ton of talent and they can't do anything with it. Steve Sarkisian was 5-7 last year. It's pretty damn close to getting run out of town again. There's the other way is not better. And Frost didn't do either, so it got really ugly.
Yeah.
Didn't acquire that good of talent and certainly didn't maximize it. And then when he did acquire good talent, he couldn't keep it on campus for more than a year. But
I'm just saying,
man. I mean, from where we are right now, there's a hell of a lot of things that are worse than Mike Riley 2.0.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. The idea of getting a coach who maximizes the players that he has is a good
idea.
It's a good football coach.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot of difference between hiring a guy who's 47 and a guy who's 62.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of difference inherently.
Wade is our next caller on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Burton. When you're plumb uncertain, just call Burton. Hello, Wade. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. How are y'all?
Excellent.
Well, finally. I mean, we finally got a win against a quality opponent and on their home field, no less. But I have to admit, when it was 24-0, when they scored to make it 24-7, I asked my wife, where are the Toms? I have a feeling I'm going to need them anyway. But somehow we held on to win the game, which is something we hadn't been doing. But I knew just somehow that they were going to make it come down to the end in the game. That I was hoping I wouldn't have to drink another beer or sweat it out. that they wouldn't do that, but they did. But they held on to win. And then the other thing is, kudos to our fans. And when I say our fans, I mean the people that live in Nebraska and the immediate, say, 200-mile radius. I mean, I'm 800 plus miles away in Mississippi. I can't really make many games, but the ones who are able to keep showing up. We were 3-7 going into the Wisconsin game, and we've got a sold out stadium. And I look around the country, I watch a lot of college football, and Iowa, they had a chance to win. If they win today, they go to the championship game in Indianapolis. And I saw big pockets of open seats in the stadium near the top, and they only hold 69,000. So,
Nice.
I think there was at least several thousand didn't show. So they didn't even have a sellout for a game in which they could have clinched the Big Ten West. So kudos to our fans who just keep showing up inexplicably time and time and time again. And, whether the sellout streak continues or not, I don't know, but it's never going to be 50,000 people in the stadium with 30,000 empty seats. We're not doing that.
No.
We're not going there. So I think our fans deserve a lot of credit for that, for sure. And then as far as the coaching thing goes, if it wasn't going to be Mickey, I either wanted it to be Rule or Fickle. And, Fickle was a long shot, so I pretty much only left Rule. Of course, Rule's not presently coaching, so if we have a deal in place, there's not really any reason to go beyond tomorrow and announcing it unless they're, I guess maybe they're still trying to iron out some of the details or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know that much about contracts, but and how they work, but I know that it's been publicized that when Trev restructured Mickey's contract, it was in there that if he doesn't get chosen to be the guy, then they retain him as associate head coach and receivers coach. So I don't know how they can promise that to him, though.
Well, I mean,
how does that work?
The next coach can still fire him or let him go, and
But
he
they'll
can
have
still
to
take
pay him out.
another job.
Yeah,
too.
they'll have to pay him out.
Well, that makes sense. And I do think I give Bill Bush a heck of a lot of credit for what he's done with the defense. But the next guy coming in, whether it's Rule or whoever, I could see them hanging on to Mickey. Mickey's even said he wants to stay. He would like to stay and be involved with the programs. I don't think Mickey's going to leave as the receivers coach to be a head coach somewhere like Arizona State or Colorado or something like that, because he's already expressed an interest in staying, and that would do wonders for the transition for the new coach. But I don't see any new coach retaining multiple people. If there's anybody, it's going to be Mickey, and that's it.
Yeah, we'll see.
I just wanted to call and say those things, get you guys' opinion, and I appreciate it. Y'all have a great show, and have a hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Wade.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. A famous Big Red Overreaction caller, Wade, for some of his thoughts.
A little more subdued this time.
Earlier in the year. Yeah.
A little more subdued this time.
Yeah, as far as the contract and the details of it and when something might happen, I would say you'll probably hear something about it tomorrow. Basically, the situation with Rule is gone. He was at the table, and there were, rumors of him being in town or whatever a couple weeks ago, right? And then briefly was away from the table. And
couldn't agree to terms.
And now back to it. And it sounds like they're
much closer,
much closer.
Yeah.
This time around.
Yeah.
So if he is the guy, as Wade said, I would not expect it to go far beyond tomorrow. Maybe Sunday.
Yeah, I'm expecting an announcement Sunday. I am. I would Monday at the very latest. If it goes past Monday, something went wrong.
Yeah. And then as far as retention, we just don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, I want to know.
It depends,
just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I don't know.
It depends a lot on what the players want to do. There's just so much more opportunity for them now to either move on with some NIL dollars attached, find a system that maybe works for them better than whatever the new coach brings in. So until some of those details are finalized, it's impossible to have any good idea on how that works itself out.
Back to the phones. Connor Happer, Robbie Lula with you on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Chance Oliver pushing buttons back here as well. We have Roy, who's next on the Les Hills Harley Davidson hotline. Hey, Roy, what's up?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. Well, I'm a little bummed about Mickey. I really think, you got to give him at least maybe 4 or 5 years to get his guys in there and get his system established, get his culture. I feel like we kind of we never got to see that flower fully bloom.
That's true,
feel about
Roy. But Mickey Joseph was not the full-time head coach. He was the interim coach.
I'm kidding. I'm
Okay.
totally happy about it.
I was gonna. Hey, I don't know, man. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's not anymore. I appreciate the troll though. That's good stuff.
The only thing I would point out about Rule that concerns me is that at Baylor he was 0-11 versus ranked opponents.
Yeah.
That could have been context specific. I'd like to hear you guys discuss that. Thanks
sure.
for taking my call.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it. Good.
That was a good troll.
I like that.
That was
I
dry.
thought that was very real.
I was like, oh man, here we go.
I had that one just loaded up. I was like, well, the interim coach doesn't really usually get 5 years.
Correct. Yes, accurate. People forget.
Yeah, I think people have brought that up for Rule over the last couple of days. Oh, he hasn't beaten any ranked teams, stuff like that.
You would love it if he was 6-5 against ranked teams, 0-11. That'd be ideal. But
the other thing is, I
believe that's not just at Baylor. That's also at Temple. Which at Temple you basically never expect to beat a ranked team.
Yeah, you get about one a year usually.
Yeah, I think they maybe knocked. I don't remember. They might have knocked off Penn State, but I don't remember if they were ranked or not.
So, also here's the other thing, and this could also double as a concern from people. He's only been at a place for 3 years, right?
So he's at 4 years at Temple,
4 years
and
at Temple,
3 years at Baylor.
3 years at Baylor. So I don't know, like what happens? What is the ceiling for Matt Rule? It's not something that we know yet. So those ranked wins, they start to come a little bit later. Also, there is the context of this is the Big Ten. You're going to get a lot of ranked teams.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of opportunities.
You're going to have a lot of opportunities to do so.
There's also,
and it's more likely that those teams are going to be ranked based on their quality, right?
Yes.
In the Big 12, you're probably playing some really good teams every week. They just might not have been ranked.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And so looking at his resume, the only year they were really good at Baylor, so they improved every year. They went bowling the last 2 years of his 3 years there. But the first year they were 1-11. They didn't beat hardly anybody, right? And that was coming off of mass exodus and horrible issues with their Art Briles situation. Year 2, they were 500. I think they ended up 7-6. So the only year that you would expect them to beat ranked teams was his final year there when they're 11-3, right? So you also have to kind of put some context. Like, I would be interested to see how many games that he lost to ranked teams was he a favorite in? Because I would imagine not very many.
Yeah, that's a good research project for the next 24
like,
hours.
Probably only in 2019, I would guess.
Yep.
And obviously, you've only got a handful of opportunities at that point. So there is some context that but again, you would love it if he was 500 against ranked teams, right? That would be awesome. And it's an easy selling point. You don't have to have this discussion, but it is, if you have having concerns is fair. There is no, I said this throughout the search. There is no coach out there, Nick Saban included, that I wouldn't have some concerns about. Nick Saban's 70 years old. Are you sure he wants to do a rebuild? There's a concern. Like, the concerns of people vary in the degree of severity. Like maybe the concerns about Matt Rule are less than the concerns about Jeff Monken. You have to live with you have to figure out what concerns you can live with.
Let me flip the rank things on the ranked teams thing on it just real quick.
Sure.
So you look at what Baylor did in 2019, if we're talking about Rule, and they won 11 games, and they lost Oklahoma twice. One of it was in the Big 12 championship game. They lost to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Obviously, those are all
very good
top 10 teams at the time.
Very good.
They didn't play any other ranked teams throughout the entire year, at least at the time that they played them. So you could look at that and say, well, Baylor took advantage of a lot of different things. Number one, K-State's not quite there yet. And Oklahoma State's not what they're, used to being. And Texas was down. And TCU had a rare down moment, right? How many times in the last couple of years have we talked about Nebraska?
We lamented.
It's just, regardless of how bad that they have been, even this year, we knew how bad this football team was very quickly to start the season. You look back, and Nebraska only beat one Big Ten West opponent this year. It was Iowa today, by the way. Shout out Iowa. Nice job on that one. But they had leads against like 4 of them. I think they had leads against 5 of them, in the game. So it's taking advantage of opportunity. Maybe they're not you're not playing like a ranked team or the best team on the face of the earth. But man, there's a window of opportunity there and taking advantage of it. And that's what his team did in 2019. It's a small sample size. It's just one example, but they took advantage of an opportunity. They won 11 football games. They went to a conference championship game. That's a real life
also,
thing.
for what it's worth, they lost to Oklahoma, who was a top 10 team by a total of 6 points twice, one of which was in overtime. They also beat 3 teams that were receiving votes at the time that they played them. So you're talking about a team that's like top 30 instead of top 25.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking about earlier with the Big Ten teams just being more likely to be ranked.
Yes, because you get the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he beat 3 teams that were receiving votes. So you're talking about like a very thin degree here of oh, he's 0-11 versus he's 3 and whatever, you know.
Yeah, what's he against top 30 teams?
And again, Oklahoma, who was a top 10 team the entire year, they lost by 7 in the Big 10 or Big 12 championship in overtime, by the way. So he took that game to overtime. The first time they lost by 3. So like he's very, very competitive. Georgia was a top 5 team.
That Oklahoma
they
team
lost
go to the
by
playoff?
12. No, I don't think so. They were 6th. They did they go in 2019?
Yeah, they got smoked by LSU in the
Oh yeah,
semifinal.
they got in. So
Yeah.
you know that's a playoff.
They were
game.
the sacrificial lamb to LSU in the first round.
I mean, everybody kind of was. It's not like Clemson wasn't a sacrificial lamb to LSU.
You're right. Connor Happer, Robbie Lula with you on Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. Back to the phones. James is on the line now, the Leslie Harley Davidson hotline. Hey, James, what's up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
First, thanks for taking my call. I had to step away from my Iowa party here.
Oh, good. Well, you know, if you could say whatever you'd like to him, I suppose. Well, keep it PG, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll keep it PG. But first, give credit to Mickey Joseph and the team beating Iowa. Hasn't been done for 7 years.
Huge.
We were up by 24. It was ugly. He's one of the best assistants in the nation, but I believe he has never been a coordinator before or a head coach. Am I right? Or
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
mean, he was the
correct.
head coach at like
In
Langston.
NAI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I don't really count that for Power 5 or Group of 5. So
I would agree.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope he will stay, but I don't know based on the rumors that are going on right now. I just wish that we would come together and just support whoever we hire, because I just think people criticizing Rule if he's the guy, like choosing a candidate without any experience based on like instant gratification of like an Iowa win is just asinine.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, in the whole scheme of things, I think we should have more wins than 4 this year. So I think it's just a no-brainer. We should just support whoever Trev hires. So, I'll just keep it short. That's all I have to say. So I support whoever's hired by Trev. So
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
And look, we had talked about this just with the timing of all of it and where the sort of fan base has been and the roller coaster that they've been on over the last 2+ months here. I'll say this. While it might not be the softest landing in the world because you're going to get pushback this time compared to zero pushback.
Sure.
The last time, as we've talked about throughout the show, Ravi, that I think that's healthy, number one. But number two, Nebraska fans are going to support it. I mean,
this is not hard to talk yourself into.
Yeah, and like even if it was, I think Nebraska, like
they would.
We were fighting about Mike Riley, and
We talked ourselves into Mike Riley. We didn't
Yeah.
have to talk ourselves into Frost, but
Yeah.
that's what Nebraskans do because we love the football program.
Yeah.
We're going to get excited about it. People were talking themselves into this year, despite all
Sure.
of the things that were pointing into this probably isn't going to go well.
Yeah, what the hell? I had him at winning 7 games. What's wrong with me?
I mean, Jack Mitchell had him at 10.
Jack
man.
Mitchell's insane though.
He is an insane person, but like, yeah, there's an 8. There are a couple 8s up there.
Yeah.
There's multiple 6s. Like, this is a place that wants to believe in their football program.
Yeah.
So when you've got a guy who has a track record of turning things around in the college programs he's been at, he has an identity and a culture that he brings to the table and a brand that he brings to the table. It's not hard to talk yourself into it. And Nebraskans want to talk themselves into it in the first place.
Yeah. I like I said, might not be the softest landing in the world, especially when you compare it to Scott Frost 5 years ago. But I really do think it'll take about 10 seconds.
Scott Frost probably had the softest landing since Nick Saban.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Yeah.
Like Nick Saban was universally praised, rightfully so.
How about Lincoln Riley at USC? Could I convince you on that?
Maybe.
Pretty
I just don't
soft.
think USC cares that much.
That's true.
Like,
So half of it's just being a Californian, and half of it is like, wow, this is really cool.
Half of it's just apathy. Like, oh, he was pretty good. Why not?
Whoa, that's pretty sweet, man. Nice coach.
Yeah, the soft landing is apathy.
So, yeah, I think that'd be a contender there as well. But, yeah, it's a very soft landing.
It's incredibly soft. I mean, Brian Kelly to LSU didn't have as soft of a landing as Scott Frost to Nebraska.
Yeah.
And
People aren't going to be you're not going to feel the need to clap after the plane is landed on this one. It won't be that rough. I really don't think so.
No, I don't either.
All right, Brett and Morgan, hang on the line. We're going to take a time out here on Big Red Overreaction, which is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Connor Hepper, Robbie Lula, Chance Oliver with you as we continue on after Nebraska beats Iowa 24-17 and claims the Heroes Trophy this evening. Back with more next on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
Sunday morning is all about church, eggs, and the Sunday paper. But right next to church, it's made for hot takes and reactions. Severe reactions. Michael Severe is back on 1620 The Zone with Severe Reaction. Sundays 8 to 10 and doesn't hold back on what went right and what went wrong on Saturday. He'll also take calls from the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction. Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Powered by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone. Sunday morning is all about church, eggs, and the Sunday paper. But right next to church, it's made for hot takes and reactions. Severe Reactions. Michael Severe is back on 1620 The Zone with Severe Reaction. Sundays 8 to 10 and doesn't hold back on what went right and what went wrong on Saturday. He'll also take calls from the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction. Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Powered by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
It's Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Big Red Overreaction continues in 1 minute on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg.
That to-do list you have needs one more thing. Chill. It's an easy thing to do. Just crack open an ice-cold Coors Light and chill. Take the afternoon off and binge watch anything. Go to happy hour and stay for a couple hours. Who's counting anyways? Or hang out with just your dog because you've had enough human interaction this week. Whatever you do it with a Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment made to chill. 2020 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
More info and opinions on Big Red than one station can handle. Now on 2 stations. Big Red Overreaction postgame on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. Sound off. 402-951-1620. Big Red Overreaction is sponsored by Burton AC Heating, Plumbing, and more. When your plumbing's hurting, just call Burton. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. And Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill.
Off the bank, pressure, and the ball is loose, but he may have been down. And Petrus popped it up for the moment. Hang on here.
Give yourself a good chance to win. It was a fumble. Nebraska recovered. It'll be 1st and 10 at the 31-yard line.
How about another thing that Nebraska overcame today? A backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Barely.
Kryptonite.
But they overcame a backup quarterback. Spencer Petrus, really bad. 1 out of 6, 9 yards. Missed, I think, genuinely just missed on the 5 incompletions he had right out of the gate. Like, honestly, just missed him. I don't think there were any drops in there.
No, I don't think so.
I think he just missed.
Yeah.
On every single one of them. And then he gets hurt. And after Nebraska gets a fumble, or on the play that Nebraska got the fumble, and you're like,
the first fumble, yes.
Well, what's gonna happen here? And
I think a lot of people were actively rooting for Spencer Petras to be okay. Not because they're good people, but because he was horribly ineffective against Nebraska, and we wanted more of it.
Absolutely include me into that category.
Pour that into my veins.
I want to watch Spencer Petras play a lot of football
against Nebraska specifically.
Not any other time, but yeah, just that time for sure. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. Connor Happer, Robbie Lula with you. We'll take a few more phone calls here before we get out of here. Remember, if and when a coaching hire is made official, we'll be with you for 4 hours of uninterrupted coverage here on 1620 The Zone. We're sort of expecting that at some point in the next 24 to 48 hours. So we will see when that comes, but all our guys will spring into action at that point. And no matter what, you're going to have severe reaction on Sunday morning as well. Maybe we could just run that thing straight into the coach show. But we're going to keep an eye on things for you guys over the next 2 days or so here from the coaching perspective. But back to the phones, we have Brett on the line. Hey, Brett, what's up?
Hey, I just want to say congratulations to the Huskers and the coaching staff. Whatever coach they land on, they're going to be a better team if they keep Mickey on the staff, is my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Brett. I would love to see Mickey stay. We'll see if it happens, but I do think he's an asset to the Nebraska football program for sure.
Well, he's the most honest guy that we've had for a long time. I mean, straight shooter, that's what you want.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. I mean, he comes in. He went into a situation that was, I don't know if I want to say like win from the perspective of like winning over the people. But he did a really good job of making it clear that he is not Scott Frost.
And he was very different from the guy that had the job before.
And that is a good thing. And yes, he made that very, very clear.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it.
I just want to say, I know he said like a straight shooter is what you want. I want a good football coach. Okay. I don't know that I would call all of the really good football coaches necessarily particularly straight shooters in terms of how transparent they are with the media always.
Yeah.
Nick Saban and Bill Belichick are famously pretty prickly with the media and don't give them a ton of information. I think as long as you're a straight shooter with your team,
With your
that
players.
helps a lot.
Yeah, which he clearly is.
Yes. But again, to me, that is a bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like we've drawn the bar so low because of what we just experienced with Frost that like being a person who takes accountability seems like a novel foreign concept to us.
It's so ridiculous.
Being a person who tells the truth is a novel and foreign concept to us. Being somebody who the players like being around is a novel and foreign concept to us. To me, those are all
shows up to practice on time.
Yeah, shows up to practice on time, makes recruiting calls, shows up to recruiting meetings on time and sober. Like these are all things allegedly. These are all
season's over.
These
whatever.
are all things
Let it
that
fly.
that are such a low bar. That are such a low bar for a head coach that it's like, yes, I would like all of those things, but I assume everyone should have all of those things that is a candidate for the job.
Yep.
And so what I want is above and beyond that. I want the quality coaching. I want being able to develop offensive linemen and being able to manage a coaching staff and being able to recruit in the state of Texas or whatever, right? Like those are all the things that I want. It's not just the bare minimums of, hey, this is how you hold a job as an adult.
Yeah. But if the rest of the season after September 11th was about getting Frost or getting back to the point as a program where you felt like it was that way, where you're meeting some of the bare minimum standards, mission accomplished.
Oh yeah,
Mickey Joseph put up the banner on the aircraft carrier and say mission accomplished. We should make a meme.
Oh no. Oh.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
And honestly,
an adult is running our program. Mission accomplished.
We got an email before, and I do not say this in jest at all, but Brian emailed in the Equitable Banking Box, says, Connor, a giant thank you to Mickey Joseph. He's the first head coach to leave Nebraska, most likely since Osborne, and the fan base collectively salutes him. and size at the same time. He made the best of it, and I hope he stays on. I'd love to see him in the mix for years to come. Thank you, Mickey. I mean, he deserves that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If he wants to be here.
Yeah. Like
if he wants to be here.
I wish there was like a Mickey pep rally tomorrow or something like that. It would be a little odd leading into a next head coach announcement.
Super weird. Yeah.
But I do think he deserves that moment. And
he deserves all the credit you want to give him.
He got that moment tonight. Chance has lost it. He's been here for too long.
He's been here for too long.
We got to get Chance out of here.
No, and listen, I'm incredibly happy that Mickey got this moment, but I'm also not someone who thinks he should get the full-time job.
Yeah,
that's it. Both can be true.
Yeah, both can be true. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Burton. When you're plumb uncertain, just call Burton. Back to the Los Hills Harley Davidson hotline. It is Morgan on the line. Morgan, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent.
Good.
What do you got for us tonight?
Well, I'm just going to say I've been a Nebraska fan for a long time. I've been listening to you guys for a long time. Me and my husband, we listen every Saturday. And I just wanted to call in and say that I think, whether or not they give Mickey the job, a good step in the direction to give him the job, because the last two coaches, they couldn't beat Iowa, He's got really almost no stake in the game. The kids didn't even tonight, being that they weren't going to a bowl game. They had nothing to lose, and they won, Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a positive step in the direction that we need to go in.
Hey, Morgan, thanks. I appreciate the call. I tell you what, and we just got done talking about it a little bit. Absolutely admirable effort
100%.
To keep these guys engaged over the last 2 months, or even especially today.
I mean, we've talked
with all the noise of what they knew what was going on. These guys have got their phones out.
They're capable of using the internet.
Like they know what's going on.
There's a lot going on, and there's been a lot going on.
To keep everybody engaged and jump out to a 24-0 lead on the road against your rival in a game that meant absolutely nothing,
and was huge for them.
If you lose,
was huge for them.
It was huge for them. If you lose to Iowa one more time, it's like we were supposed to lose to Iowa one more time. We're 10.5-point underdogs today. Absolutely admirable what they did today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And his ability, I mean, listen, we've talked about this before, but they lost exactly one guy in the transition. One dude.
Yep.
That's incredible. You had a ton of guys that could have transferred out. One guy did. No one went running for greener pastures.
That guy probably would have left anyway.
Yeah, that guy was probably leaving anyway. He had pretty much already been benched before the firing and transition.
Yeah. He had pre-decided that he was going to go somewhere else.
He was going somewhere else. This was an incredible. So I don't even hardly count him as a defector, because it wasn't a Mickey thing.
Yeah. No, not at all.
He basically went through this crazy tumultuous season and didn't lose a single guy. That's incredible. And he's to be commended for that. And there's absolutely value in keeping him, A, if he wants to be here, and B, if the new head coach wants him to be here. I don't think you can put you have to keep Mickey stipulation on the new coach.
No.
I don't think that's fair.
I wouldn't want that if I was the new guy.
And we've meddled too much in the past.
Yeah.
We've meddled too much in the past.
Oh, for sure.
It's always a bad idea.
Oh, you don't think Trev's thinking about that when he's discussing potential coaches and all that, talking about what they have to do and the parameters that they have?
And here's the thing.
Trev knows exactly. This is the positive part about Trev and his experience of being around here for so long.
He knows exactly the history.
He knows what's gone wrong.
Yes.
He knows what's gone wrong.
And here's the other thing is
egos. That's what's gone wrong.
Yes, that is very frequently the problem. But if you're like, even if Mickey isn't retained here, he will have a job as a wide receivers coach anywhere he wants in the country.
Yep.
Probably outside of Ohio State, because Brian Hartline's really good. I don't think they're fire Brian Hartline for Mickey Joseph.
Sad.
But he's basically gonna have his choice of jobs. He talked about this. He's like, when I left LSU, I had my choice of jobs, right? And that's accurate. When he, Vance Joseph has talked about how he could have gotten him jobs. He could have gotten NFL jobs. Like Mickey Joseph's gonna have a really good job. Nebraska's gonna pay out his contract, and he's gonna get an opportunity to do what he's really, really good at, whether it's at Nebraska or somewhere else. I think I don't want people to be worried about Mickey Joseph. Like, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Would we love him to be here still? Yes. But the most important thing is to get the head coaching hire.
Mickey's phone, if he is not retained,
it's going to be blowing up.
It's going to be buzzing. He's not going to spend much time on the couch.
No,
he'll be on the couch this weekend or maybe tomorrow. He's not going to spend much more time on the couch.
Absolutely.
Just a couple more calls here on Big Red Overreaction. 3 to be exact. We're putting the line at 3.
Cutting it off.
Thank you, Chance. You turn everybody away that calls from now on because Tim, Casey, and Andy
you're getting put on hold so you can listen on your receiver.
Our final 3 on Big Red Overreaction, brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Connor Happer, Robbie Lula with you this evening. Back to the Les Hills Harley Davidson hotline. It is Tim on the line. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Hey guys, I just want to say I enjoy listening to your show. I try to tune in as much as possible. I live in Arizona now, but I really enjoy the show. But I just wanted to make a couple points on some of these people that that keep talking about Mickey Joseph, being retained as coach. It just, as I've been a Husker fan for a long time, and I feel like our program has been in disarray for such a long period of time that people you guys kind of pointed this out a little bit with what you were saying earlier, but you start to see a little hope, you start to see a little bit of turnaround, and then this is the guy that we need to make our next head coach. And I just I don't see that. The problem for me is with the way that the program has been for the last 10, 15 years. I mean, you got to swing for the fences. And I feel like even now, I feel like we're just not doing that. If it is Matt Rule, obviously I'd like to give the guy a chance and see what happens. But, with the pocketbooks as deep as we have them, I just don't understand, with almost losing fan base and losing sellout record or, sellout streaks and things like that. Why not, dig deep, pay a guy like, a salary that's equivalent to what, like a Dabo Sweeney or something like that guy, in my opinion, would be Urban Meyer. There's a lot of people in Nebraska that think that he would be a cancer for the program, but I just don't see that, man. I mean, every coach has some kind of an issue in some way, shape, or form. Bo had his, and, even Solich had his, and, look back at T.O., and there were some players on that team that probably shouldn't have been playing, but, hindsight 50-50. But, I just don't understand it, guys. Like, I don't understand why you just don't dig deep and try to get the program back to where you want it to be by paying someone what they deserve to be paid. And then, just see how that pans out. I mean, usually I think it's usually going to be a positive situation, but if it is Matt Rule, my question to you guys is, and I don't know if this was touched upon because I just started listening to the broadcast a few minutes ago, but if it is Matt Rule, who do you guys see him bringing in for his offensive coordinator, for example? Do you see a tie with someone in the NFL or a prior offensive coordinator? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. Hey, Tim, thanks for the call. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So, okay, let's do that part first, I suppose. And it's a really simple answer, and the answer is I don't know. He's got a whole bunch of ties with guys who at his various different stops.
So I'm just going to toss out a few names out there real quick, and if you guys, you can Google them if you want to know more about them.
The problem is, and because you're going to say this, you're probably not going to know any of these names.
No, because that's how assistants are.
This is how it works.
That's why I said go Google them, figure out who these people are.
Yeah.
Guys that he's worked with before that I think it's likely he could call, right? I don't know if these are going to be the guys. Marcus Satterfield, he's currently the OC at South Carolina. Glenn Thomas, I believe he was currently the OC at Arizona State. And Jeff Nixon, who has worked with...
Hey, Will Nixon's dad.
Yeah, they've all worked with Matt Rule in the past, all have Power 5 experience. Those are 3 names that I think are fairly likely are on staff in some capacity on the offensive side of the ball, or have a decent shot that they're at least had phone calls. So if you want to look up Jeff Nixon, Glenn Thomas, Marcus Satterfield, that's where I would start if you're interested, if it ends up being Matt Rule.
Give me an offensive line, defensive line coach that understands what they're attempting to do here and has and can get it from the recruiting standpoint as well. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And if you, like you said, if you get that offense or that defensive line coach from Texas A&M, that's a home run.
Who was with him at Temple and was with him at
home run.
Baylor.
That guy's as good as it gets in the country.
Yeah, and Texas A&M not in the best situation right now.
Yeah, there
might be an opportunity to strike. On the first part, here's how I would put it. So, caller mentioned the why not take a home run swing, and here would be my answer. We'll just continue on the baseball theme here. Yeah, it would be nice to put a run on the board, but right now Nebraska's got nobody on base. And I think I'd like to put somebody on base before.
Base runners are good.
Yeah, like
we're both big money ball guys. We like base runners.
I watched the 2015 Kansas City Royals win a World Series by hitting a whole bunch of singles. And that was really, really fun for me to watch. And sometimes it works. And I think the Big Ten is full of coaches who are hitting singles and doubles into the gap occasionally as well. And there might not be a whole bunch of home runs out there. And I think that's sort of how Trev Alberts thinks about it too. Like if Trev Alberts was the manager of a Major League Baseball team, I think the Royals would fit him really, really
Probably
well.
not a lot of high strikeout guys.
Yeah, I think he'd get a bunch of guys who get on base.
Yeah.
And who do the right things and maybe a couple sack bunts a game.
I think there's a lot of Billy Bean in Trev Alberts,
Yeah.
And listen,
I don't think the program's in a place right now where you need it where like
here's the thing though. There's a difference between not taking a haphazard home run swing and cheaping out.
Yeah.
Right. I don't, if it ends up being Matt Rule, they didn't cheap out.
Well, and the other thing is people always do like the what's to lose thing. What's to lose? We're already bottomed out. Here's what's to lose. The next 5 years of your life.
Not just that. Not just that.
Come on.
I'm going to be more tangible here, right? Not just that. It's the funding, right?
Yeah.
If you have another 5 years,
a generation of Husker fans.
Yeah. If you have another 5 years of what we just experienced, that money dries up eventually, right? Like, I don't care how devoted people are. At some point, especially rich people want a return on their investment. If you don't give them a return on their investment, they stop investing.
Yeah.
That's what rich people do.
And is there
or
a
they
chance,
invest in something else.
If you're trying to hit singles and doubles, is there a chance that you still strike out? Of course there is. Yeah, there it
Absolutely. But you also, my point with not cheaping out, you also still have to take a swing at something, right? Even if you're swinging for a double in the gap rather than trying to hit a moonshot.
Yep.
Like, you still have to take a swing. I think if what is being reported currently is accurate about Matt Rule, they took a swing.
It's a double in
and
the
hit
gap,
a double in
baby.
the gap, which is
We got a runner in scoring position.
Desperately needed by Nebraska right now.
No doubt. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Burton. When you're plumbing certain, just call Burton. 2 more calls, and then we are out of here for the season. Casey is our penultimate caller on Big Red Overreaction this season. Casey, what's up?
Nothing. I like the nickname Penultimate though. That might stick.
Not quite the not quite the Mr. Irrelevant, but almost.
It's in between. I had a lot of stuff on my mind, and then all of a sudden I started thinking about baseball, and I have no idea how to analogize what I was thinking in my head. Because it started off as a money talk, and like I was pitching a business plan, but now I'm trying to think if I should run the wheel or what we're going for here as a coaching staff. But I think as a Husker fan, I speak for all Husker fans, that in a sense, we all won today and we all lost today, because it's still that looming doubt of we're so close to the, quote unquote deadline to finding a coach that's going to be able to effectively recruit for the next season. But we beat Iowa, and we beat Iowa soundly. And we were finally on the other side of a 1-score game, which, I mean, I don't know if you guys felt it, but I felt it right towards the end. It's like, oh no, here we go again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Everybody felt that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think we just need to kind of, I know it's going to be difficult to take a step back from the coaching carousel. And, it's not how much we pay to just get a coach. You can buy anyone out for any amount, but if they don't fit in, they're not going to fit in. It's got to be deeper than that, I think. But I just think we need to take some solace in the fact we won a game that we haven't won in, 7 years, 10 years?
Yep.
7 years.
Seven times, yeah. 8 years now since you've beaten Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think about that in terms of real life, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is. I was 22.
A team you really don't like, and to lose to them every time in just usually the grossest of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when it comes to finding a new coach, I don't think it comes down to how big of a check we can write. I mean, and the guy before who was talking about Trev Alberts and, Trev Alberts knows this and, X, Y, and Z. I agree to an extent, but I think he knows how to be so good at his position because of everything he might have done incorrectly at UNO.
For sure. Oh yeah, failures just as much as successes make a person.
And,
Perhaps
you
a
know,
better
not
teacher.
Not to drag TA, but I mean, at the same time, you know, when you fail on that grand of a level, again, sorry, but it helps you realize the best ways to, you know, go about it. And I think he's going to be the best person to find the next coach. And I think he's already obviously got someone, if not, you know, a couple people in mind and ready to announce. But I think we all just need to take a deep breath and remember we beat Iowa today.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to keep the perspective. Casey, thanks for the call, man.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
And it's always good to beat Iowa.
Hey, Nebraska, I can't think of a way they lost today. I mean,
No.
whatever, but Nebraska won. Nebraska won the football game, and they're probably going to announce a head coach in the next 24, 48 hours. This will be an overwhelmingly optimistic 72 hours for the Nebraska football program.
We started it off by saying this is a good day for Nebraska football.
Yeah.
And it is. I believe that.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that to my core. This is a very good day for Nebraska football.
There is now an 8-year-old child who has witnessed Nebraska beating Iowa
for the first time.
For the very first time in that child's
And we
life.
love that.
In their life.
And we love that.
8 years. I keep repeating it. Like it's worth repeating. Beating your rival is really important. And it's something that it always felt like Iowa took more seriously than anybody else, and I think we made fun of them for it. And if this is the way that Nebraska could feel like a fully fledged member of the Big Ten or the Big Ten West, then great.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
They need to take these things seriously. Beating your rival is really,
it matters.
It's
it
important.
matters.
Andy is our final caller on Big Red Overreaction
of the season.
For the season. Andy, Mr. Irrelevant, how does it feel after you turn your radio down?
It feels great. Can I talk to Greg?
Yeah, Greg's here. Say hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg, it was good talking to you after the game.
Say hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
That big red machine. Hey, Greg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is this Greg?
This is Greg.
So am I on the radio?
Oh, you're on the radio big time with Greg.
You're on the air. This is Greg.
Greg and Damon.
Hey, 24-0, start the game. Mickey had a game plan. Coach Billy Bush. All one word.
Black shirts. How about them black shirts?
They stand up when it matters most. Look at our future. We got Malcolm Hartzog. We got Ernest Hausman. And I like Polar Bear. Stand up. Hey, Greg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks, Andy. Bye. We got to go now. That's a great way to finish. That is a great way to finish.
Hey, Greg, you here?
Big Red Overreaction.
Shut up, bitch.
Whoa, chance.
I had to hit it just once.
What was that?
Say hi, Greg. Say it. Say, Greg, are you there?
Hi, Greg.
No, we're
not taking any more calls.
There's somebody who's calling right now. No,
stop it.
That Andy is the way.
He's
that
the
it ends.
walk-off.
That's the.
If
way.
that's John Bishop, call him the VIP line because I'm not answering.
Is John supposed to be calling?
No, I told him to call on Twitter.
Why?
I think John
just
landed from Maui and was.
And the first thing he wants to do is call Big Red Overreaction. John, you're a sicko.
Greg, is that you out?
I'm here, Greg.
Greg, you
Greg,
there?
are you
This is
there?
Greg and Damon.
Greg, are you there? It's me, Margaret.
Nebraska beat Iowa today.
They did. It's a good day.
And tomorrow, Nebraska may have a new head coach to introduce to you all. But tonight,
is it Greg?
It's not. I don't think their name. I don't think the next coach's name will be Greg. By the way, Nebraska volleyball in the third set at the moment against Wisconsin. They actually took a set from Wisconsin, which
hasn't happened in a minute.
Speaking of being a good day for Nebraska,
Good day for Nebraska.
it's a good day for Nebraska. They're, I think, down in the third set as we speak, 22-19 at the moment. Looking for a tip out of bounds there, might have it. So I think it's going to be 22-20. But look at that.
Here we go.
Another good day for
Good
Nebraska.
day for Nebraska.
Robbie's locked in, or Greg is locked in on his Florida State Seminoles.
I am. I'm watching. It's Florida State, Florida. It's a big game.
It used to be a big game.
It's a big game.
It's not really a big
It's
game.
It's big
anymore.
game adjacent.
Oh, they called the tip. It's a tip. 22 to 20. 22 to 20. Just like I said at the Devaney Center. We are not going to be doing big volleyball overreaction tonight.
We will not. No.
We will be ending it here. Big Red Overreaction. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Coors Light, keeping Nebraska chill. And Burton, when you're plumbing certain, just call Burton. Nebraska, victorious. 24-17 winners today. They improve to 4-8. Finish their season. And remember, if Nebraska is going to introduce a head coach to you, whether it's tomorrow or Sunday, we will be on the scene and with you here on 1620 The Zone for live 4 hours uninterrupted coverage as we take you through the press conference and your reaction and plenty more whenever the historic day is over the next 2 or so days. Not guaranteeing anything, but it's looking that
Seems
way.
likely that it'll come down sometime in the next 48 hours.
Ravi, I think you did the most Big Red Overreactions this year.
I did the same as you, I think. I did 4. I did Georgia Southern, Rutgers.
All right. 4. Tied. 4
Wisconsin, and Iowa.
All right.
I think that's all.
This is how we finish it. Any final thoughts on the really, really fun season that 2022 Nebraska football was?
I mean, I'm glad it's over, honestly. Like
I'm glad it ended on a win. My God.
I'm really glad Glenn landed on a win. I'm glad Mickey got that win. But let's be honest, after the firing of Frost 3 games in, it felt like a wasted season. A lot of it felt like man, I wish we would have done this at the end of last year so that we could head into it felt like a wasted year. And so that was disappointing. Obviously there were some positives that came out of it. Trey Palmer was a positive. Mickey Joseph, getting him to come back to Nebraska, even if it was just for the year. We don't know what's going to happen there. There were some positive things about it, but it just feels like a wasted opportunity.
Another one
in a Big Ten West that was gettable. That's the part that has stuck with me. I don't know if that's how I'll look back at it in the coming weeks and months as we get a new head coach and get a probably a pretty decent roster turnover and all these things. But at this point, it felt like a wasted year.
Big Red Overreaction returns on August 31st, 2023 at about 9:30 p.m.
from Minnesota, right?
From here, but
from
Minnesota.
Coming off of the Minnesota game.
Yes, on a Thursday night to start the season.
Big Thursday overreaction.
Until then, Chance Oliver, thank you, sir. You've manned the ship on most of these.
You're welcome. FYI, I brought up 8 of these this season.
8, so that puts him in the lead.
He is the leader.
Yeah.
But I don't have to interact with our fine citizens as much as you guys.
Thank you to Robbie Lula. I'm Connor Happer. Have a good evening, everyone, and we'll talk to you guys probably pretty soon.
I would imagine.
Have a good night.